on public television, Dan.
Just loosen it a little tight. Come on.
I can loosen it.
Is it a clip-on?
I know, we should. Matt's in a shirt and tie right now. Just all looking lovely here.
All right, we are live. So good evening, everyone. Welcome to the August 6th, 2025 Litchfield School Board meeting. The time is now 5:30. We're going to call the meeting to order and begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, we have review and revision to tonight's agenda. Any board member like to change the order of tonight's agenda or add anything? Okay. We do have a remote participant this evening. So we have Miss Ames, who is joining us via teleconference. So as typical with remote participation, all votes will be a roll call vote. And we have to ask Miss Ames the reason why you're remote, and if there's anybody joining you this evening.
Good evening, everyone. I am camping in North Conway, and there's no one at my site right now where everybody's floating on the river. So it is quiet around me, and hopefully I'll be able to stay online as long as the internet allows.
Amazing. Well, we appreciate you taking time and joining us this evening.
Motion to approve remote participation.
Thank you very much. We have a motion by Mr. Shoemaker, second by Mr. Plansky. Roll call vote. Mr. Plansky?
Aye.
Mr. Shoemaker?
Aye.
I am an aye.
Aye.
And we have a vote of 4-0. All right, excellent. So moving right along in tonight's agenda, we have committee reports. Any board member like to move items off the consent agenda and committee reports? All right. We have summary of non-public actions from July 9, 2025. Ms. Ames motion to approve the June 4th, 2025 non-public meeting minutes. Mr. Shoemaker seconded that motion. That motion passed 5-0. The following hirings were presented. We have Stephanie Jalapsy for LMS and CHS part-time reading specialist. We have Susan Rafferty at LMS case manager. And we have Autumn Thompson for district-wide speech language pathologist. In addition, we have Mr. Shoemaker moved to adjourn the non-public session at 8:40 p.m. Mr. Plansky seconded that motion, and that passed 5-0. And tonight we have presentations and recognitions, and we'll turn it over to the superintendent to get things started.
Yeah, we got a couple presentations. We're going to start with the annual presentation and approval of the student handbooks for the start of the school year. So I'm going to have the administrators from the 3 schools come up. When you guys get up here, I'm going to have Zach just introduce himself first to the board and to everybody. Since it's his first school board appearance, we'll put him on the spot.
That's very important.
So, hi everybody, my name is Zach Stevenson. I'm very excited to have the opportunity to be at the Litchfield School District. Jen and I have had a great start so far, so I'm just really enthusiastic on what we can do here. So thank you for allowing me to join you guys.
Welcome.
Thank you.
We're glad you're here. Thank you for joining. Thank you for coming to the school board meeting. We wish you the best in getting things kicked off here in a few weeks.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah.
So I think I'll kick off for a quick second. We didn't talk about this beforehand, but we had a fantastic meeting a couple weeks ago where we sat together as an entire admin team and went through handbooks to make sure that they were aligned from school to school, to make sure the pieces were all present. It's not exactly the same order, but you're going to find the pieces are common amongst the 3 schools, which is something that was the first time that we've ever really had an opportunity to sit with the entire admin team together and do that. It was a great collaborative effort. So I was really appreciative of that opportunity.
And now that we did that, we realize that it's close enough. Next summer, we're aligning. Because to have section 5 just be a little out of order, I'm like, oh, no, we're going to make it in order. So, we would start with the GMS handbook. There are actually very few changes, but if you actually scroll down to the bottom of it, we like to highlight what the changes are. We present that to the parents too, just in case they want from year to year. So you notice that a majority of those changes are really just updated policies that you have approved throughout the year. So we update those links. A few of the highlighted changes that we have, we've changed the language in the communication devices, and we've just done that to make it more in line. Obviously, I think there's going to be a more vigorous conversation later when you get to the middle and the high school when it comes to cell phones and the watches. But at the elementary school, it actually doesn't impact us too much because we're kind of already a prohibitive environment for those devices. But what we did want to do is actually capture the watches more and actually spell out a little bit more actually as to what happens when a student has one and how we'll handle that. So we spelled that out. Another thing that we did spell out is with our drop-off procedures. While they are complicated and we spell them out every year, we kind of learn something new. And what we didn't have spelled out in the handbook was during the drop-off in the morning. We don't want parents, if they happen to be, quote-unquote, one of the lucky ones that are in the back of the line and can drop their kid off, that they can again kind of shoot out of the line and cut across the parking lot to get out and not have to wait for the whole line. We don't want them to do that, so we put it in the handbook that once you're in the line, stay in the line. So we just kind of spelled that out. That is really it for substantive changes. Everything else are really just kind of updates. So that's really it for the GMS handbook.
Is this available like in hard copy as well as online, or is it only online?
It's only online. Yeah, we've gone away from paper copy.
I was just curious because like I was looking for page numbers and I was like, I don't see page numbers.
Yeah.
But I guess if it's only online, you can.
Yeah, but when you go, and then when you go online, what we've done is through the Google Docs. It's the hyperlink sections. So.
Yep. Gotcha.
So ours is very similar. It's a lot of housekeeping updates. We updated, things like the title page with the current school year. The principal's letter is tweaked each year. We added our new personnel, removed and added as needed, including email links. The new school calendar is included. I would like to draw your attention to section 1.4 in our handbook, which discusses our new LMS schedule, which will be coming live to parents this Friday in our communication. We had a large committee meet together to discuss what was working really well in our schedule and what wasn't. And if you recall us discussing the idea of the number of students that we have who are chronically tardy or late to school, and the fact that if they're late to school every day and they're missing math every first period, they have math every day and they're late every day, that's not helping our test scores. That's not helping us to make sure that those kids are getting consistent instruction. And even as adults or kids, we have times a day where we're better, right? Some people are morning people, some people don't wake up until after 10 o'clock. It's just everybody has an opportunity where they have some time in their day where their teaching or their learning is more active and present. So you'll see we're shifting this year to a waterfall schedule. So students will all start each day with the Links homeroom, which is consistent with what we used to have for BEST. That advisory period where they'll meet, instead of in the middle of the day or the end of the day, it's going to be right at the beginning of the day. They have that BEST time.
I can't hear anything.
Can you hear now?
Can you hear me now?
Yeah. Sorry, I was trying to adjust there was some background noise. We're trying to adjust it, and I think we're good.
So
Yeah.
you'll see that that schedule follows through the week with blue and white days. Looking right now at fifth grade schedule at the top of the 1.4, where on Mondays you'll always start with A. So you'll always start with the A period. And then we have some fixed periods in the middle of the day. That lunchtime, Links time, which is what used to be the artist formerly known as BEST, and Den time are all stable throughout the week. They don't adjust in the flow, so that we could have a 5-day rotation and it would be consistently predictable is the words that we're using to describe that for our students and our staff. Every single Tuesday, if there's no school on Monday, you're still going to come in on Tuesday, you're going to go to homeroom, and then you're going to go to B period. For many of us that are old like me, this is how our schedules were built long ago in middle school and high school. It was a common way for that to happen, and our committee of students, parents, and staff that talked about this really feel as though this is an opportunity to catch those kids who are coming in late every day and making sure that they're not missing on some core academic areas. Any questions about the schedule? Because I know that's a lot to absorb in a really quick look. It's the same number of periods. The only other thing that changes is that getting rid of the word best and going to links. That links is going to be that extension opportunity, the things that the kids were always looking forward to of some choice time. There's going to be 4 to 6 weeks interest inventory classes that they're able to sign up for during links. And on Tuesdays and Thursdays, you'll notice links is struck out of the schedule because they won't have it. Instead, the class periods are a little bit longer to allow for that differentiation, to allow for more academic core instructional time, which again, we're hoping to leverage that learning time for our students, which is really critical and important. They'll still have that homeroom time, which is that advisory kakori time that they have in the morning, but that links time comes out of the schedule, and those couple of minutes are added on to each class to allow for a little more instructional time in their day. Moving on, we are added to section 2.4. We have the lovely display TV in our cafeteria, and we're going to make sure that the announcements are updated there, which also translates to updating our website every day with our morning announcements, because oftentimes what we know about middle schoolers is that they're not great communicators with home. They don't let families know what's going on at home, so that'll be another place for families to see that what are our after school offerings, what are the things that they have that they can choose from. By updating it on our monitor in the cafeteria, the kids will see it while they're at lunchtime, be able to see what's happening if they missed the morning announcements because they were a little noisy as they were getting settled in for the day. And then parents can also take a look and see what's being announced in the morning. We have updated section 3.2 with the correct dates for each quarter. And we have also updated our honor roll process. The bane of my existence, and I'm going to be honest as I say this, at LMS has been calculating honor roll in my 4 years. It has never gone well. I'm going to be quite upfront and honest about that. So one of the conversations that we had this year is like, we would like to focus our attention on honoring those kids who are successful in achieving those all A's or all A's and B's, but do so at each quarter. So we'll recognize students who earn all A's and all A's and B's at first quarter, recognize whoever makes it second quarter, recognize whoever makes it third quarter, and then at the end of the year, be able to recognize it for all of those things, and do that during the school day where the students will get a certificate and an assembly with their fellow students, and be able to really focus that energy on the learning demonstrated, not so much the grade achieved. So that's really important to us. We have also updated the grading and reporting section to talk with what Dr. Taylor, I believe, is talking about later in today's presentation. So I don't want to go into a whole lot of discussion on that, but it fixes some challenges that we've had with calculations and calculation errors in our PowerSchool portal. So I'm not going to steal that thunder, but that has been updated. Section 5.3, it is about how we're going to handle cell phones. So for those of you that have had students at LMS, we have always been an off and away school. I can tell you, as someone who is there to enforce it, it is not enforceable with them having it in their possession, because what we find happens is the kids go into the bathrooms and they're texting for someone to come pick them up. They know all the places in the school where the phones work. So even though we've been an off and away school all along since I've been here, it is not an effective strategy for helping to keep kids in their learning environment without distractions. So as a team, we discussed how that was going to be handled, and with those cell phone cabinets for the watches and the phones, when they come in to put their cell phone and their watch in the box that we talked about earlier this year, and they'll take their Chromebooks out, and then at the end of the day, they'll do the reverse. If they get dismissed at any time during the day, they'll have it. And then we spent a long time discussing that safety component and what do we do in case of an emergency if there was an Alice drill like we had so many years ago. And what we said is actually the kids not having their phones in their possession is actually safer for the kids, believe it or not. We learned that on that December 17th day in 2021 when I and Dan almost got ran over on the lawn as parents were hearing that the buildings were being evacuated and they were coming to get their kids, and that really caused for some safety concerns. But the goal that we have for that is that we are going to have those cabinets where all the phones are stored, and if there's a fire drill or an evacuation, the teachers will grab the fluorescent backpack and they'll grab the cell phone boxes and carry it outside, and if there is a need to dismiss from there, kids will have access to that and be able to contact home through their own cell phone outside. The same type of reaction is that if they're caught with their cell phone on their person, now the first time is going to be the teacher will take that, put it in the cabinet, and the student will come back at the end of the day to get it. The second time will be the teacher will take it, turn it into the office where it will be stored. Parents will have to come and get it. And then the third time will involve some conversation with parents coming in for a meeting, because at that point it kind of becomes more about insubordination than it does about the fact that they're carrying their cell phone with them. It's about not following that expectation or need. At no time will kids be cut off from contacting their families. They're going to be able to, we've added additional phones in our main office and our counseling areas. So if kids are having anxiety and they need to hear mom or dad's voice, they can still do that through the old fashioned pick up the phone and talk to a person way. So we want to make sure we're clear that kids will still be able to come down and make those phone calls if they need to.
What if they don't know their parents' phone numbers?
We have it in the system. Power School gives us everybody's contact, as long as parents update that.
It's a lost art form.
Yeah.
Maybe it's gonna come back.
It's funny to listen to Mrs. Chappell and Mrs. Young in the office have to teach kids how to dial the phone, because they don't know how. Like, first you push the numbers in, then you pick it up, and then you hear it ring, and then you talk when somebody, if nobody answers, you have to leave a message.
Put a rotary phone. I'd give them a little rotary phone and see who the smart ones are. They'll figure it out.
You're stealing my thunder. We're gonna do, you know how we did our environmental day this year? We did our entrepreneur day this year. We're gonna do a little thing this year that is a historical evidence. They're gonna have like cassette players that the kids are gonna have to go through and learn how to use, or use the rotary phone or those kinds of things, just to kind of walk back and see some things. It's a little fun thing we have coming later this year.
You're gonna video those for
Oh yeah.
board's enjoyment?
Oh yeah. Have you seen our videos, Peter? Come on, we do a lot.
Make an escape room.
Our room wide table with pencil.
Yes, make sure that pencil is there. So that's our goal for cell phones. Again, it's not to penalize students. It's not about, but it's about them being present in their learning environment. And the anxious generation is a true thing. I think about right now, my cell phone is left back there. I know it's there, but I'm not freaking out about it. But I have a 16-year-old. If she gets in trouble and I take her phone away, I see her literally freak out about it. And I think we need to help build healthy habits with these cell phones and these devices. And this is one way that we can do it, to give them a break during the day. I've talked to teachers and administration in Pelham, who last year had the Yonder pouches and they spent the whole year without phones. Kids and teachers and parents are like, they survived. It's okay. We made it through a year without cell phones, and actually they felt better about the learning environment, and kids being more present and active. So we're excited about that. I hate to prattle on about cell phones, but another change that we made is in our behavioral expectations in section 6.4. All we did was highlight the middle column just to focus on that's where our middle school stuff is. We updated our Chromebook information as we discussed in budgeting process last year. We did add carts to 7th grade, so 5th, 6th, and 7th will keep their Chromebooks on carts, which helps to reduce damage, helps to make sure that students have access to charged Chromebooks when they're at school ready to work and learn, and that they can still sign those Chromebooks out if there's any academic need for a homework assignment or academic need for a project that they're working on. They can still sign those Chromebooks out and take them home if it's needed. Nutrition services and the payment plan is in the handbook with the Titan plan, which also is a place where you can pay for your Chromebook insurance, or you can pay for school lunches. We have updated section 9.6 to include the cell phone cabinets if they're approved. We have also updated section 11.1 to include parent-teacher conferences will be held twice a year, because I think that was a surprise to a lot of teachers and a lot of parents this year, that we did have those spring conferences, which was a nice addition, but there is only the one night, so it's a little abbreviated. We might adjust the way we provide those, and then we made sure that all policies have the correct links attached at this time. Any questions?
A couple questions.
Okay.
Back up to where we started on the school day schedules.
Yes.
I noticed grade 6 still, at least a couple of the days, still has a split period.
They do. There was, in order to get lunches and to try to get as many periods to be aligned so that Unified Arts could teach across the grade levels, it was the only way that we could do it to make sure that lunches can fall within the window that we have for lunches, and to make sure that, that we could get lunches. It's basically the end all, and it only happens right now on Tuesdays and Thursdays versus 5 days a week. It's
Better than it was, yeah, for
Yes.
sure. I just caught my eye.
Yeah, that was a very difficult decision to make, and we tried really hard to not have that happen, but we would have had lunches going until 2 o'clock, which is really not ideal if we bumped it out.
Okay. In terms of the cell phone policies, there were section 5.3 in both GMS and LMS so far. Is there a way to, and I know the board hasn't approved this yet, but is there a way to directly link to the board policy?
Yes, that's what we're waiting for. As soon as you tell us that, we're gonna,
There'll be a reference.
there'll be a reference to it, we're gonna drop it in there.
Okay. Because I don't see reference to any mention of that quite yet, so I just want to make sure that that's on the horizon.
If we can reference you guys, we will reference you guys.
You'll see in the letter at the top, it references the state law. It also is coming up in the
Yours
communication
did, GMS didn't,
that, because I'm happy to pass the,
just as a, but.
Yeah,
Bell to
only
bell.
because this is actually, it derives from like an electronics policy, like this is, if you go back in history, it started with like when
Computers.
Game Boys,
Yeah.
you know, like, and it's evolved to this.
I think definitely helping families understand that it is tied to the state law. The other thing that changes in our day, we always used to have end dismissal come with an announcement from me whenever I didn't have students in front of me, or Jeff whenever we weren't wrangling what was happening in the office. Since it is a bell to bell, LMS has been a no bell zone. We're going to add that end bell, so that 2:05 bell will ring. When that 2:05 bell rings, they're going to go back to their homeroom to return their Chromebooks, to get their cell phones and their watches out, and then make their way to buses or parent dismissal at that time. So it also is going to help a little bit of our bus problems that we've had in the past with a long time sitting and waiting on the bus when they get up to Campbell. So that starting that dismissal at 2:05, the buses will end up rolling out around between 2:10 and 2:15, which is a little bit later than what they have been doing right now. And I think that that's going to really help a lot of challenges that our middle schoolers face as they're sitting and waiting for the high schoolers to, it's not their fault, but sitting and waiting at the high school for them to load up. So,
The end bell is gonna help them. Sorry, I'm not following.
so in the past, we would say 2:05 would start, and I'd say 5th grade, parent pickup and bus students, make your way to dismissal. So they'd walk down the hall,
Right.
we'd wait a few minutes. 6th grade, make your way to dismissal. 7th grade, 8th grade. And so it would take about 10 minutes for that to happen. But we always were encouraged to be pulling out of that bus loop, and Heidi, if she's still there, can speak to being reminded that we had to be pulling out by 2:10. 2:10 was our goal, to be out of that. The bus should be moving along. Well, what we were finding is when Mr. Peterson and I, or Mrs. Thayer even then, were looking at someone calling to report a bus challenge, we would go and take a look at where was the bus challenge happen. Well, it was happening while the kids were sitting stationary at Campbell waiting.
So they're gonna be departing a little bit later so that there's less wait time.
Yep.
Okay. And do we, like the bus company, do we have to let them know?
They're fine with it.
They're fine with it.
Yep.
And
Do you have
it's,
any way of fixing the issue of kids getting on the wrong bus to take a ride to the high school?
We're going to continue to work on that.
I think cell phone's gonna be the lengthier conversation. So, after CHS does their thing, maybe we can circle back to cell phones, cause I think it all ties back to cell phones.
Sounds good.
That's good.
That's the issue of the day.
Yeah.
All right, well, any other questions for GMS or LMS? Really interested in CHS in your first review of it.
So there weren't any monumental changes other than policy things that will need to change. So again, the cell phones. I did include a link to the draft already so that it'll be in there. So that was in my sort of summary of the changes. I put page numbers so you can kind of read. So this is just the brief overview. The discipline's consistent. It's part of what the state is also telling us we have to do with discipline, which is interesting. So, and again, as Jen mentioned, you know, our plan to use the little portable phone briefcases, I think will be really helpful. I'm sure we'll have to work out some kinks. Our plan is to meet with the students and really kind of go over it with them a few days and say, you know, you're gonna practice putting your phone in there. You're gonna put your phone in there to kind of give like a little window of everybody's learning, see how it works in terms of like the system that we have created. Because as you know, when you try something and then you realize, ooh, can't do that, it looks a little different at our level. You know, we're gonna have sports dismissals, kids who have early, you know, they can come in late, they can leave early, different privileges. So we're gonna have a lot of cases in our main office area that students will have to keep their phones in because of their privileges. Athletes will have like specific athletic cases. So if you know you're getting dismissed for your sport today, kids will know where their phone is. The case will be numbered in the office and they'll have a slot in it. So again, pending the approval, that will all go in there. And what I did too in the handbooks themselves, I highlighted all the new stuff in green. And I also crossed out, you know, what I had proposed to just do away with. We added a little update with the study hall and learning lab dismissals. Again, and Zach and I are only just hearing, but from our admin team meetings, hearing a lot of underclassmen having parents call in and dismiss them during their study halls and their learning labs so that they can just go whatever and come back. I am a firm believer in like senior privilege. It's a privilege. So while we can't tell parents they can't dismiss kids, it's just something we're really going to discourage. You know, we want students to use that time for academic reasons. Students who receive special ed supports often get them during that time. So if they're leaving too, then they're not going to be getting services. So just a little bit of a language change there. All the staff information has been updated with links to emails. So parents, that'll be a really great quick guide if you need to email a staff member. The daily schedule, nothing's changing. We sort of just clarified a few things, and we included the lunch period transitions on the Daily Bell schedule. They weren't on there before, so we just kind of included a few additional details. And we also, that's where we chose to include language about not having outside food deliveries, and that's consistent with LMS. DoorDash and Uber Eats, just, you know.
Gonna be tough with no phone.
Well, but you'd be surprised. I don't know Chromebook access, but anyway,
They'll find a way.
that's
It's a new and improved lunch menu. This shouldn't be an issue.
They can just go to the cafe. We encourage that.
yes,
Actually.
yeah. So, and we had a lot of the stuff. Like I noticed that LMS had to update was already up to date per last year's. I don't know how that happened, but then I found little parts. We found parts like they didn't have the district goals mentioned anywhere, so I thought that was important, and they were in the other handbooks. So that's an update where those were just included with information. And then the grading updates, so obviously that'll be another big one, and also pending board approval. And I would imagine that if there are any specific changes to what will be presented to you, that those would be made to what I put everything in there for now as it was drafted. So, you know, if I have to go back and change certain things, maybe some of it is going to be the same, like, I don't know where we're going to land, or if we revert right back to, you know, the previous grading, then that would stay. I think the biggest change at CHS will be around midterms and finals. So we are, you know, proposing to bring back midterms and finals. Personally, my daughter just finished her freshman year in college, had to take finals for both semesters. All of her friends who go from BC to UNH to Merrimack College, I didn't hear one of them say that they didn't have any final exams. I also think, in thinking of students who may not be college bound, that any kind of opportunity to sit and take an assessment will prepare them for any assessments they have to take to go into their trade, whether they want to be a plumber or a lawyer. That's school. Plumber, electrician, you know, anything, HVAC, you still have to take a test. Real estate, you still have to take a test. So I really think that it'll help build some academic endurance for students to bring those back. So the changes 6, 7, and 8 and 9, really 6, 7, 8 are all based on those grading changes. So those are sort of big pieces in the grading that changed. And then The graduation requirements was really just tweaking some of the language. It was a little unclear. And the policy wasn't linked. So again, like Jen, I went through and just sort of made sure that policies that were mentioned were linked. And just to clear, it just was a little bit murky with the explanation. So just sort of some cleanup with words. So otherwise, no, other than grading and cell phone, no big changes.
Minor, okay. Good stuff. Any questions for CHS?
I like what I hear.
Like what you hear? Ms. Ames, just want to give you the opportunity as well to ask questions.
She got kicked off.
She's floating now.
She's floating. Okay, she dropped. All right, well, good for her. Okay, excellent. Well, thank you for the presentations.
I do want to talk cell phone. I'm not going to let you get away.
Okay.
Are we going to talk cell phones now or when we get to policy?
I do want to talk about some of the procedures stuff
Sure.
now, because it obviously related to the policy.
Pause and do that real quick.
Yeah, we should. So it's 6 p.m. for community.
Just a quick pause to do that, and then
We can do that, yeah. Sure.
So, yeah. So just on the, in terms of the agenda, and then we'll flip back to that for a moment. So there is community comment on agenda items.
I would, if you wanna continue, I would object.
Okay, thank you very much.
So I do want to talk cell phone policies because, you know, now that we're approaching school, you can see anywhere that people are realizing, yeah, that we have a law that we have to enforce in our schools. So I just want to make note of the law. This language is included in the proposed policy that we'll get to through the policy section later. But the policy that we have to have as a school district shall prohibit all personal communication device use by students from the first bell rings to start instructional time until the dismissal bell rings to end the academic day. So that includes first bell of the day to last bell of the day. Kids cannot have phones. This is the law. So we're gonna have a lot of conversations, I think, probably when we start working with students and start working with families of this, of like, hey, can my kid have their phone during lunch? Can my kid have their phone when they go to the bathroom? Can my kid have their phone when they do this, so on and so forth? The interpretation of the law that we've been told is no. From first bell to last bell, kids cannot have. And when I say phone, I'm including smartwatches and these other personal communication devices that they need to be away. So as a school, elementary is slightly different because of the age that we're dealing with. It's going to be more of a classroom-based situation. They're spending the bulk of their time with their classroom teacher. It'll be handled a little bit different. And we're not dealing with the volume that we deal with, obviously, at the middle school and the high school when it comes to personal communication devices. But our procedure that we would like to enact involves, we talked about it, I believe at the last meeting or 2 meetings ago, but some sort of little locker, right, that's going to stay in the classroom, the first classroom of the day for the students. When they come in, they're going to be assigned a slot in the locker, they're going to put their phone in, and that's where it's going to stay until they leave at the end of the day. Each school is going to have slightly different variations of what that is. For the high school, they don't necessarily have it's going to be different every day because they're on that red-black schedule. You have a little homeroom-ish type of schedule built in for middle school, so it's a consistent adult for them. Likewise, at the middle school, at the end of the day, this is what helps elongate dismissal for them, because now they have to go pick up their phones from where they started at the day, so they're not leaving the middle school as early, which is going to cut down them sitting at the high school. So it all works out nicely, but they're going to return to get their cell phones. Where high school, they'll have a similar procedure. High school is a little bit more complicated. We're going to utilize the office and some other spaces as well. When we have kids coming and going from CTE, right? They can't necessarily, like, if they have first block CTE, they're getting right on a bus from Campbell, going over to Alvern right away. They're not gonna have that first from teachers, so when they come back from CTE, they'll go to the office, put their phone in. If a team is getting dismissed early, rather than using their first block schedule, they're gonna come down to the office, put their phones in, so when they have dismissal, they can just pick up their phones as part of the dismissal, early dismissal process for that. And there are other quirks with that Jen and Zach will go over with all the kids for all the different scenarios at the high school of the comings and goings and stuff. But this is what we would like to pursue, is this locker idea. I showed you one model, one example at a previous meeting. We found a slightly different one that's lighter, because as we were talking through the process, when we do have an emergency situation, let's take a classic fire drill, for example, our plan is to be able to take the locker and go out with them, right? So we want a lighter case that could be easily transportable for whoever's doing the transporting, whether it's the teacher themselves or asking one of the students, and becomes part of the classroom jobs. So we can take those devices out with us, right? Classic example, last year at CHS, we had to dismiss early one day because of a potential leak issue that we were having at the high school. And we weren't really supposed to send kids in, or it was much later before we could let kids in back into the building to retrieve all their stuff. We know there is an importance to the cell phones, so we're gonna take them with us so that communication piece, if there is an emergency, can happen in an organized way and stuff like that. We are ready to hit go on ordering these. We've talked to the vendor that we're gonna go through. We have a quote, we're ready to go. They've told us we can get it by the first day of school, as long as we place the order at least a week out, which we are more than a week out, so that's kind of our intention. We're not going with some of the pouches you'll hear about. Yonder is obviously the most common pouch of it. They're really expensive. That's the primary reason why we're not going with them. And they seem to be creating some issues when kids breaking them apart and starting to get into them and causing some issues. They're still a super effective tool. I don't want to like minimize the pouches in any shape or form for schools that are doing it. But we just think with the smaller schools that we have, that this locker issue is a little more easier and manageable for us as we kind of pull off. So I want to kind of go with those broad strokes of our procedures on how we want to enact the law itself. The policy that we're going to talk about later is the sample New Hampshire School Board Association policy. Is the exact suggested language for all that. It touches more on saying that you're going to follow the law, and we'll talk about the specifics when we get to it. But it does leave some of the procedural steps in how we enforce the law to us, the district, to kind of do, and this is how the schools want to tackle it. So, questions, thoughts?
I have a few questions.
Yeah.
First question is, are the kids assigned a specific slot, or is it just?
I would encourage teachers to do so, yes. Yep. So, and I would just do alpha order, right? Like if your last name is A, you're Adams, you're probably gonna get assigned slot 1, right? And maybe you get, depending on the class, depending on the age of groups, how many devices are we dealing with, kids? Do you need 1 slot or do you need 2 slots, right? If you have a kid with a phone and a watch, they might be assigned 2 slots, so slots 1 and 2, right? And then you're just gonna go down, so it's a consistent slot. It will stay locked the whole time. We have 2 set of keys that comes with the cases. What we're gonna do is give one key to the teacher for their case that's kind of in their classroom, and then we're gonna hold on to the other key in the offices of the schools. So if something was to happen to that first key, we have a backup key.
Yeah, so my concern is just kids taking other kids' phones, right? Like we have
It's just gonna be that part is good concern. We're just gonna have to make sure teachers are managing the putting in and the putting out. When you know, my previous school, I gotta stop saying that because now we're in year 2. I can't just say my previous school. My previous school is Litchfield. But in the old place I used to work, when we were starting to go down the road with cell phones, and you had the classic like shoe thing behind the door, you know, the teachers would have to be, you know, each kid got assigned a slot. Teacher would watch them put their thing in, right? You know, be put in. They'd close the door, hang up, or whatever it was, and then kind of go back, and people had to be respectful of it. We're not electing to do that type of option here because the law is tighter and prohibiting that complete bell-to-bell situation, and specifically mentions not having them during lunches and during passing times and all these other things. But it is going to be some teacher enforcement of that to ensure that they're safely put away. You know, kids are smart. What we saw when we were doing that in previous schools is they bring in an old phone or an iPod or something that looks like a phone and put that in the slot, and then keep their actual phone on them still and stuff like that. So it's going to have to just be part of a routine to kick off the day for all of our teachers to ensure that the phones are safely put away.
But the second question that I have is more complicated, and I raised this when we talked about this last time, but
Yep.
I'm concerned about liability for us holding hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of devices.
Yeah.
Has anyone talked to our insurance company
I have a
about?
meeting with Primex next week, and I was going to ask that at the
Okay.
time.
Yeah.
So I'll report back for sure.
Good question.
I think across the board, without the legal part of it, but just talking to other educators, that does make us all nervous, is that we're taking hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of equipment that's not ours into our possession, essentially.
My thought would be that our policy should include something that indicates that you should not be bringing a device to school, and if you choose to bring a device to school, if it's stored in one of the pouches, it's at your own risk.
Yeah.
Yep.
And we have no liability. You hold us harmless.
In my blurb, I put that at the very end, like a message, really the message to parents. Have your kids leave their phones at home if you can.
But I think adding that extra piece of if you do decide to bring it, it's at your own risk, and you hold us in the district harmless for any losses or damages. That's all I have for questions.
That's it?
Yeah.
All right.
It
So-
saves time for others.
I just went back to encumbrances, right, looking at the financial aspect, and the board approved $7,500.
Yeah.
Quick math, right, $7,500 gets us about 50 of these units at a price of about $150 per
Yep.
unit, if I'm looking at the models that are presented. Is that enough?
We're ordering 75, so we are gonna dip and we are sacrificing some other money in some other lines to make sure that we can enforce this. So we had put in a reserve because we thought that would be an appropriate amount when we were looking at this at June, and we didn't have the policy that we were gonna have to enforce, or even the law was in place at that time. But as we did the math, and for example, I'm gonna pick on the high school, but not to pick on them, just to give you an example. As we started walking through the steps of the procedures behind this, right? On any given period, there might be between, 20 and 30 classes going on, right? So a first class of the day, there might be 20 or 30 classes. So you might think, well, you only need 20 or 30 cases. But then we start talking about all these other scenarios, the CTE kids, right? They're not gonna be in their first period class. They need a place to put their phones, a common place to put their phones when they return from CTE, the office. We should have some in counseling, at least one of these things in counseling. So for whatever reason, they can hold on to phones for kids. Maybe it's an anxiety thing, maybe it's they came in late, whatever the case may be. So we started talking about all these other places where we think we're gonna need cases, not a ton, but they start adding up over time. We're gonna need multiple cases in the front office for all these different scenarios coming and going. Athletics is gonna have a case or two because of the athletic dismissals and that type of stuff, counseling having a case. Even teachers that don't necessarily have a first period assigned to them, we're gonna give them a case so they can have one for whatever reason that may unfold, that they might need a case, they'll have a case and stuff like that. So we ended up getting higher than just the straight flat out classroom number that we're doing. So our intent is to order about 75. The model we're going with is slightly cheaper than what we presented before, because it's weighs a little bit less and just is a little bit cheaper.
Just
They're
looking
giving
at the
us-
model you linked in your handbook? Yeah.
So the quote, I don't have the quote right in front of me, but the quote we have is a little bit more than what we had set aside at the end of the year. So we feel it's important to do this and to do it right and to have a consistent way to do it across the schools. So we're willing to sacrifice a little bit to get it done.
The only comment that I would have is I would have Dave Ross or somebody look at the key types, because 2 keys just may not be enough. And the other thing is some of these keys are common cylinders.
Yeah.
So it could be the same key for like 40 of them. Somebody gets a hold of it and all of a sudden, you may want to look at, is there a way to, replicate the keys for where it's more than 2? And if you have a whole bunch, you may want to go to a different core cylinder or something.
Yeah, we actually are anticipating the keys are all gonna be the same.
Yeah.
Like there's
Yep.
just a case and this is the key model for it.
Yeah, exactly.
And so, the idea is that it shouldn't really ever be out of sight of the adult in the room, right? And if an adult
Understood.
has to leave the room and leave behind the case, the door needs to be locked. That's not just good cell phone practice, that's good school safety practice, and we should be doing that. So, we have to be diligent about that because of what we're dealing with. The vast majority of our teachers and staff are fine with that. That's not gonna be an issue, but it is gonna be reminders, like when you leave your classroom, if you have a prep period and you're going to a special ed meeting, for example, you need to make sure your door is locked because there's gonna be stuff, or you're carrying the thing with you, but you probably don't wanna carry that thing all around to all your meetings and stuff like that.
We talk to our teachers, they carry their keys to their classroom on their lanyard. We figure this is just one more key that they're adding to their lanyard that they will have on their person.
Yeah, no, and I'm not really worried about the key theft aspect. I'm more worried about a key gets damaged. Now you go from 2 keys to 1 key, right? So I would expect Dave would have the ability to go figure out how to go get copies of those keys made, or be a reasonable expectation is that it's a common core cylinders that you can just pop the cylinder out and buy a whole new lock cylinder for it and go from there. I would hate to have $10,000 worth of iPhones locked in a case and both keys are now broken and cannot be placed, and now you gotta break the case to get into it.
It won't be a common cylinder. That's not profitable for whoever's building these.
So I'm gonna send something out as part of my message this Sunday.
Yep.
With whatever decision we make, I'll probably link directly to the policy, make mention at least to the general procedure here, that each of the schools is gonna be using. I am certain I will get some feedback from people, in regards to the cell phone and just a couple of notes. One, it's the law, and I'm not trying to just use that as an excuse, but it is the law. We have to enforce this as it is written. And, you know, Jen mentioned it, Pelham went to the Yonder pouches last year, and there's some other school districts, Claremont's another school district that went to a pretty significant cell phone ban policy previous to this law. And they saw improvement in academic engagement, you know, legitimate improvement in the engagement of their students academically. And so that's where this is coming from. This is why it was a talking point through, you know, through Concord and then the State House and everything, because the cell phones are a distraction for our students and frankly for us sometimes. So it is going to be, you know, we'll see, and hopefully it's going to work out. There's going to be hiccups here and there. We have a set of procedures we feel good about. I am sure as we start enacting it all, there will be things we need to update, and we'll keep the board, you know, informed of those various decisions we have to do to make sure we can do this smoothly. I anticipate kids not being happy when they're the first couple days of school when we start doing this. I also anticipate once we get a couple weeks in the school, it will just become the norm, you know. And I can recall back to, you know, Bo, when we had a little bit more stricter policy than we had in part. We had a student school board reps here. I remember, you know, one of them saying, who was a senior, he was like, you know, I hated it at first, but, you know, it actually works. I'm more engaged in my classes and what's going on and stuff like that, so it's not the worst thing in the world. So we'll see how it goes. And that's the cell phones.
I bet you get more positive parental feedback than you think.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's tricky. We're used to, I say this, and I have a high school slant, right? There are a lot of positive uses to the phone, right? Like, I can think if you're the oldest in the family of 2 or 3 kids, right? You're responsible for pickups, and there's some sort of change in people's lives where you gotta, you know, your sibling needs to be picked up now instead of taking the bus or whatever the case may be. There was a convenience of being able to make that text through a cell phone or something like that, right? We're all of a, well, Zach might not be over there, but we're all of an age where,
There was no phones when I was little.
we're all of an age of, you know, where, you know, our parents would call the school if there was an issue, and a message would get passed down, right? Like between periods, you'd hear the list of kids who need to stop by the office, and it would be like, hey, your parent called, you gotta do this now after school. Hey, this person called, this is going on now, this is what, right? And we just have to kind of revert back to those practices.
A little
that we had.
re-education for the parents too.
Yeah, and like, it will take some getting used to because of that luxury of that, but, you know, there's email still too. Like they have Chromebooks, like in school email accounts, at least the older kids, you know, so there are ways to do communicating through the school through appropriate channels to do that, but it is going to be a shift for everybody. It's going to be a shift for our staff. I have both my phones out right now, you know. We have to model that behavior, like when we're in classrooms and in meetings and everything like that. So, you know, it's going to be an adjustment for our staff as well, you know. I often, in a meeting, have a phone right to my left, just mainly a time, because I don't wear a watch, but just like, we have to be conscious of modeling proper behavior too when we're with the kids and stuff. So it'll take some getting used to, but we're there.
Okay, good update. Any questions, remaining questions?
Nope.
Hearing none. Thank you very much.
Thank you guys.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
I'm gonna turn things over to Dr. Taylor now.
Before doing that,
Oh,
let's
yep.
move into community comment, please. So this is the first of 2 community comments on agenda items. Mr. Oblinas, thank you for your flexibility there.
Oh, absolutely.
We
No,
finished
that was
up
good
that
conversation. Appreciate it. Thank you. First of all, just a point of order. Did you
Just
get my?
name and address.
Oh, I'm sorry. Ron Oblinas, 15 Riverview Circle.
Thank you.
Just wanted to ask if you got my email on the requested changes to the minutes, and if those were.
Yes, I do have that from August 4th. Yes.
Yes. Was that, if you're going to include that in your review of the minutes?
We will include them as amended, yes.
Okay, I appreciate that, thank you. First of all, I just want to make a general statement. Many times, the things that I get into appear to be confrontational, and I don't want anyone to think that I'm not supportive of education. I'm 100% supportive of education. I have 3 people in my immediate family that are teachers: my wife, my son, and my son-in-law. My daughter-in-law, excuse me. And so my comments are really focused on trying to find a solution to a longstanding problem. And specifically, I'm trying to view this from the point of view of the taxpayers and what they'll support. Because if they don't support anything, then we can spend all kinds of time in looking at options, and if it doesn't get supported by the taxpayers, we still haven't accomplished anything. So I just want to, while my comments may be in opposition to the FIC or some of the others, it is truly based upon my desire to find a solution to many of these issues that have been long-standing. So with that, I know I only have 3 minutes, so I would just like to highlight quickly the recommendation I sent to you regarding the reasons to delay award of the GMS design contract, which I assume is going to be on the agenda this evening. I'll talk more to it in the second half, but I just want to highlight a couple of things and summarize the reasons for that. And particularly, I'll go back to some of the things I said. Remember, we are not projected to have any growth in town. So that means that, our enrollment should be fairly static. One of the things is, I really do believe that the condition of GMS needs to be looked at all the way from repairs, which we now have eliminated. The on-site inside report classifies it in fair condition as it exists today. That was startling to me to have them not call it poor, based on what we thought. And some of the things we've worked on, we solved issues very easily. The egress issue, which was identified as a major issue to support the new build. For $64,000, we solved that by doing a little basic engineering effort. And I think that's what we need to apply, that same principle. One of the other things is GMS is in the same configuration it's been for 30 years. And the notion that we simply, the mindset that I think is progressing is we need to do away with the 50s and 60s buildings. They're not worth saving. That's been there for, 30 years in this condition. And not to really consider what does it take to fix them is upsetting to me. And one of the other things that has come up in my evaluation of the teacher staffing and utilization is a serious question on why aren't we using LMS as an option? Simply just moving fourth grade up there will eliminate our shortage at GMS for classrooms, just moving one grade. And why that isn't an option, it got removed, I don't know. There's a couple other things, to finish up quickly, talk about more. Some of the things that we are unable to identify at the moment is funding. Ray Peoples identified that there is the new school funding that is being looked at over the next couple of years at the state level. That may include repairs, which is not now. Code compliance. I have a serious concern, and was raised by actually the previous consultant, about if we do major renovations, we're gonna run into seismic retrofit. I've talked to some engineering friends, that may be a fatal flaw. We can't do that. So to spend all this money without actually looking at some of these things with a little more detail before we start into this process of looking at a big addition, I think is not appropriate. And quite truthfully, I do believe, now that we've looked at it and start looking at LMS, and quite truthfully, if we look at needing to readjust the class sizes that I brought up before at CHS, I think that brings us back to, we still need to look at now a two-school solution, because our enrollment is so low. And that really means starting over again. And so my recommendation at the end is to cancel the current procurement. I think it was put together to focus on a solution of addition or major rehab that really hasn't been fully vetted. The repairs option is, I think, a legitimate, absolute must to look at in detail. And I believe that the other thing that is a major consideration is we've had the on-site insight report that identifies $28 million, $28 million, that needs to be spent on all three schools over the next 20 years. That whole process of looking at each school and now solving GMS, but also putting together a plan, how are you gonna fund all of that together, needs to be looked at. And the way we're going about this now breaks out GMS and segregates it, and it is not a complete look. That is too much money to be leaving out there and not including in a full evaluation. And my recommendation is to go back to the recommendation I made to you a year ago, March, and it's in the documents there, is to hire a consultant on a task order basis to work with the FIC to answer questions specifically as we go along. How much really would it cost the HVE system? Is it the 1.1 million that Turner identifies or not? And so with that, I'll conclude for the moment, but my recommendation is for you to not move forward with the contract you have in place, or you potentially are gonna be acting upon. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any additional community comment? All right, there's a second round of community comment at 8 p.m., so we'll open it up again at that time. All right, now we'll turn it over to Dr. Taylor.
All right. There we go. Okay, so as we talked about the last meeting, there was a lot of conversation throughout this year about the current grading practices and how things work on the back end of Power School. That really came to light in June and really showed a need for a serious change immediately. Not being able to continue on with our current practice. So not a complete overhaul, but just some changes to make sure that grading and reporting is accurate for students, families. So I did a quick overview. The handbook is linked, but I just did this overview to quick show and capture the big changes to the system and then things that remain the same. Really wanted to highlight elementary. There's been no changes in elementary school. They've been working with a grading and reporting committee with Dan and Maura and doing a nice job really focusing their efforts on what's best for elementary students, pre-K to 4. And I'm going to start joining those meetings because we're going to start shifting some things over, but didn't think it really was necessary to make any changes to their system at this time. So that is remaining status quo. The second box highlights a new grading structure. We're not going to have any more rolling grades. Grades are going to end at each quarter and semester. What was happening is let's say a teacher had more summative assignments in quarter 2 than they did in quarter 1, it would outweigh quarter 1 and kind of mess up averages. So you can't live in two worlds where you have some grades rolling and some grades not rolling. Grades are going to end the quarter. So quarter 1, grades are going to close. Quarter 2, grades are going to close. And then there's going to be one average. I know, Andrew, you're going to like that. There's not going to be averages of averages. And there's going to be an average. So the semester grade will be the average of quarter 1 and the average of quarter 2. We'll talk about high school in a second, but then you have the average of quarter 3 and 4 for semester 2, and then semester 1 and 2 will get you your final Y1 grade. The high school, as Jen mentioned, we really need to add back midterms and finals. We have talked about that over and over last year. I heard that from many teachers and their student panels that come back, their alumni panels to talk about experiences after high school, say it every year. We wish we had more high stakes testing. We wish we had midterms. We wish we had finals to really prepare us for
that experience in our college career. So really heard that from the various stakeholders. So in talking with the new administration, we decided we want to add those back in. And then we were looking at the new system and what does that mean? So we're gonna count midterms and finals as a separate term in Power School so that it doesn't unfairly skew a student's quarter grades. And it still counts, it's still 5% of their grades. So quarter one, the quarter grades will be 47.5%, and the midterm or final will be 5% of their grades. So it's still got some meat to it, but not so much that it's gonna tank them for the semester. And Jen and I talked about, because it's kind of like, do we do 5%? Do we do 10%? Trying to find a fair number, and where we're just now reintroducing midterms and finals, we didn't want to, let's go for 10 and really take a big chunk. Let's ease in and see how it goes, and then continue to talk about the weighting of that. Then the total point system, again, not averaging averages. We had the categorical weight system of 85 summatives, 15 formatives split. That causes a lot of trouble in trying to figure out where, if I'm a student or a parent, I can't quite figure out where I'm at in my grade because I don't know how many summatives are there, how many formatives are there going to be, and then I need to take that average and then the average of the formative and then average everything out again. So it just becomes very cumbersome to try to figure out. It also is very challenging as a teacher when you're locked into kind of two boxes. Sometimes you have an assignment that could fit either one. Which one do I go with? So as a former English teacher, I think of a rough draft of an essay. That's a little more robust than a 15% grade because they're really working on it and I want them to turn that in, but it's not quite an 85% summative because that's going to be their final paper. Where do I put that? So the total point system, we put in like assignment types so you can kind of see it still kind of weights out that way if you were to look at weights because of the total point values of the different assignment types without making two strict boxes. That makes sense. But then also the point values, we did suggested points because sometimes you have an assignment that if I suggested 100 points for a summative, for example, but when I was talking with Jeff, for example, he had a assessment that was worth 150 points, I think it was. So it kind of allows that flexibility while also giving some guidelines and helping teachers with, I don't know what I should assign this because the total point system is a little bit newer and different than what they're used to. So it gives them some parameters with some autonomy at the same time. Really wanted to highlight in the other notes, GPA and letter grade scale was unchanged. Competencies will still be attached to the assignment so that you can still see what competencies are being covered within the assignment, but it's not calculating into the grade. Work study practices are going to be reported exactly the same as they were. So there's no change there. And then wanted to highlight for anybody listening that might be interested, I will be sending out communications to be a part of this group, but I want to get a stakeholder group together that consists of families, students, teachers, and administrators to go over grading practices and come up with an actual system that is robust, effective, and transparent for all involved, because this is something that I had to put together over the summer. I did hold 2 teacher in-person feedback sessions, as well as sent out a form. But it's summertime, it's really hard to get a lot of people together. So I want to make sure that the system that we finally land on is one that everybody is really happy with, and I have a lot more input than I was able to get this summer. So this is something that we felt is doable, it's transparent, it is effective and rigorous enough. So we're hoping to move forward, and we just wanted to get acknowledgement for the board. We weren't sure if you needed to approve or not, but that's up to you guys. So open it up for questions.
Questions?
Dr. Taylor, could you just articulate what the work study practices were? I know that you say the same for last year, but for people watching
Yep,
at
so
home.
those are like your perseverance, integrity, communication. Those are the practices that are transferable skills that are not just content academic related. And there's rubrics, and those are linked in the handbook, and they were reported on last year.
That's separate from a transcript grade, right?
Yes, correct.
So does that include classroom participation?
Yep, that would be all in there, like integrity grade, and yep.
Yeah, it's not in there like A, B, C, D grade, it's reported separately.
Right. The purpose of that is to kind of parse out behaviors
Yeah.
versus academic proficiencies, right? Because we don't want behaviors to impact seeing where a student really is at and what they know and can do. We want to focus academic grades on the knowledge, and we want to focus work study practices on the behaviors.
Okay.
That way when the kid that gets a 4.0 from work study practices gets to Harvard, they're not like, shit.
Right.
Look, I mean, all these changes are welcome, right? Thank you for all your hard work in putting all this together. Question being, right, how does this compare to like other districts in, like, is it in line with other practices and more like standard within the educational system?
So a lot of districts in the educational system are going to competency-based grading, but I use quotes for that because true competency-based grading doesn't use a 100-point scale. A lot of districts use a 100-point scale in some capacity or another, and they use averages. In a true competency-based system, you're using rubrics with 1 through 4 usually, and not 100-point scale average. You're not averaging anything. You're truly looking at competencies and skills. And that's not a lot of systems that we have around the district or around the state. There are some that are more in that realm than others, but there are a lot that are in this average, this 100-point scale system. True traditional grading has been revised over time, and this is still a revision of that. It's more back in time than we were with the 85-15 summatives, but again, as I pointed out, there's a lot of problems with that, especially when you don't understand it and you can't get there. So my hope over the course of this next year is to really educate and figure out where our system should be and could be, and also make it so that it makes sense, because right now it doesn't, as you know.
Yeah, I think I drove Dr. Taylor nuts because I'd be like, well, when I taught at Oyster
Yes.
River,
Yes.
blah, 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 blah. So I think you see some similarities between the various stops, at least that I've been with this, to what was going on in those schools. So.
Right, and I know my own daughter goes to Bedford High, and they grade competencies, but on a 100-point scale, everything's averaged on a 100-point scale. And I'm like, it's not really competency grading.
Okay. I think you struck a great balance with this personally. I think this is going to be awesome. Also, great deliverable here. This was so easy to read.
Thank you.
Keep it simple for us.
Yeah, I mean, look, again, I think it simplifies the whole structure, and I'm really looking forward to seeing it in practice and getting reactions from parents and from kiddos and seeing how it goes.
Yeah, me too.
I just want to give Sarah credit. She worked
Yeah.
ridiculously hard on this.
Yes, I know.
And I sometimes I truly annoyed her with something done, and then I go, no, can you try this or can you do this or whatever? So, and she handled it with grace each time she did that, and hasn't murdered me yet. So, she did an incredible job working with us this summer, and the feedback we got from people was excellent. You know, the other administrators obviously had input, but just Sarah took on the bulk of the work, and it was great.
Yeah, and so now the hard part is going to be, or the next challenge will be rolling it out, right? And making
Correct.
sure
I have a
staff,
plan.
the staff is all on board with this new
Yes.
model.
So the plan is, once we finish the meeting, we have a admin meeting tomorrow and we'll talk more about it. But, then I have a meeting with Andrea and Karen on Monday. I've already met with Andrea, so she's already started to set up the back end in anticipation of the change. And so, because we can't wait, we have to keep
Yep.
things rolling, so it's ready to rock and roll in a couple of weeks. And then Karen, Andrea, and I are meeting on Monday to go over the whole back end of the system and do test cases.
Say, can we test it?
So we're gonna do test cases and we're gonna see what happens. Oh, if I enter this and that, just to see if there's any bugs that kind of pop up. And if there are, Andrea will go in and fix that. And then Karen is gonna do an instructional video of how to do assignments and what that looks like in the Power School, in the teacher facing view. And then the three of us are going to go to LMS and CHS during opening days and do a training with the teachers live so that we're in person. And they'll have the handbook, which I'm going to do a section 2 that has screenshots. So they'll have the handbook with screenshots, they'll have a video, and then they'll have live human interaction. Let's set this up together while we're here with you. And then continuous conversations with me monthly during PLC and CTP meetings, so that there's complete communication constantly around this, so that everybody is in understanding of what this is.
Great. Yeah, that's fantastic, right? Consistent application is gonna be the key.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I'll make a motion to approve the grading handbook. Thank you again for all your hard work.
Second.
Yeah, thank you.
By myself, second by Mr. Shoemaker. Do we have to do a roll call vote? I said roll call vote.
I mean, she's off, so you don't have to,
But
but
I
you may
said we were
want
gonna do roll
to.
call vote
Yeah.
the rest of the evening.
Yep.
Mr. Plansky?
Aye.
Mr. Shoemaker? I'm an aye. Mr. DeWitt?
Aye.
That carries 4-0. Are we looking to do approvals on the handbooks this evening as well?
Oh, yes. Yeah, yes, sorry.
Yes,
You should.
I wanted to
We
go
can
back to that, and address
yeah.
that. Were there any changes or any, other items on the handbooks to address at the board level tonight?
I mean, other than if there's updated references to policies, then no. But I mean, they can make those. I think the content was.
Well, once we approve the policy, they can
They're
just
gonna
link
make
it to
those
it.
updates, yeah.
So other than that, I don't think so.
Okay,
We
I'll
do
make,
them all at once?
yeah, I'll make a motion to approve the GMS, LMS, and CHS handbooks with the updates pending board action this evening.
Second.
Motion by myself, second by Mr. Shoemaker. Mr. Plansky?
Aye.
Mr. Shoemaker?
Aye.
I am an aye. Mr. DeWitt?
Aye.
That carries 4-0. All right, thank you. All right, no student representatives reports this evening. We are going to skip over correspondence this evening because Ms. Ames is no longer with us, and we'll turn it over to the superintendent for an update.
Yeah, so mine's short because everyone else is taking all the thunder tonight, which is great. I'm sitting back, my throat's a little sore anyways. We just have update enrollment for August 1st. We still have a few weeks before school starts. A couple of trends. We're down in elementary school, and a lot of that's the kindergarten. We're at 32 for pre-K, but we usually see those pre-K enrollments come until the very first day of school, and even after the first day of school a little bit. So we'll
6 kindergartners in last week, though.
see 6 what?
Kindergartners in last week.
I don't think they're in here though. They're not. I was gonna add that. We are seeing some enrollment coming in like in the last week or two, kids arriving into the schools. I'm aware of a family of 6 that is not included in this enrollment yet, that just moved into town
They
because
have
they reached
6
out.
kids in kindergarten?
No, they have 6. No.
Sounds like Matt's family.
They have, I believe it's 1 elementary, 3 middle, and 2 high. But they have 6 kids, and they're not, we don't add them to this count until they're officially all the way through. But we are seeing enrollments coming in here as we approach the start of the school year. So I would anticipate at our next meeting 2 weeks from now, these numbers to increase. What I do want to draw your attention to, because I don't think this number is going to decrease significantly, is the high school is higher than we thought. And the one particular number I want to draw your attention to is the 9th grade number, because we retained pretty much all of our 8th graders. You know, or if a kid left for prep school, we had a kid come in, and it was kind of a wash. So that's different than last year, where we lost probably 9 or 10 kids in the total numbers. So I think that's a credit to our staffs and to our administration, to our teams, that we saw a lot of our 8th graders feel good about being in the district and want to continue their education up at Campbell High School. So that's a trend that I do hope we can kind of carry and continue in the years ahead and stuff like that. The 344 and 345 for middle and high school is exactly where we were in June. So it's a nice place to be there. And we'll check in again in 2 weeks as we get closer to the start of school. So.
We have 9 new enrollments that are not listed there.
Yeah, I know, because they're not all the way through. So it's going to be up. Yep. When we get there. We really make people we know these because we really make people jump through hoops to prove that they live here, because it's a real hassle on the other side if you have to try and show that someone is not living in town. So there's a lot of hoops. Sometimes people get grumpy with us because we make people jump through all the hoops before we register them fully. So that's why sometimes the registration process can take a little bit of time. It's not as simple as showing up at school and throwing you into the system. We make you really jump through the hoops. So.
And thank you for highlighting the grade 8 to grade 9 transition.
Yeah.
Right, that's an important metric that is important to call out.
It'd be nice, if that we gain kids. Some high schools that happens, that they actually gain kids as you go into that 8th and 9th
Well,
grade.
it sounds like you might.
Maybe we are, but that would be a nice trend if we get on that side of it, is gaining kids as they come into high school. So long
I
term.
know we did a couple of sophomores back.
We did. We got some kids back.
Yeah, that's right.
Yep, from prep school.
That's right.
So, or private school or independent school or whatever they're calling it nowadays. I only have one hiring update and it just came in yesterday. We finalized it yesterday. So we have a new music teacher at Campbell High School. Emily Dawson is going to be joining us. So I'll pass the folder out during non-public for you to review. She is going to be in her 3rd year teaching. She taught 2 previous years at Londonderry. This will be a bigger role for her, obviously, which is her incentive for joining us and stuff. She had previously also been doing some work with the Manchester Community College, their music program as well, part-time. She's going to continue to do that kind of work for them in the evenings and stuff. And as part of the Army Reserve, so does some work with them as well with their music program. So we're really excited. She seems great. She came in for interview with Jen and the team last week. She came in to interview with me yesterday. She's a random fact. Sorry, Emily, if you're watching and you didn't want me to show this, but she's getting married in September at one of my best friends got married, Small Walk in North Andover. So if anyone's looking for a wedding venue, that's a good place. It's a quick plug. We're happy to have her join us. So.
Awesome. Okay.
And that's it for me.
All right, thank you for the updates. And we'll turn it over to Ms. Starling for business administration update.
All right. We did have our audit last week. We had Plowsick and Sanders come over. They were here the 21st through the 23rd. We're still in communication with them about the final numbers. Obviously, it's still a working process. But so far, we did not have any major findings. There was one payment a double payment that was found and has now been corrected. And then we also had some student activity issues, which is typical most years. But we did hear that there was an improvement from last year. So we're going in the right direction, and we're going to continue to work particularly with the student activities and making sure that we're tightening that up a bit for this year. With contracted services for the year, I did want to just mention that last year we contracted with citywide janitorial services for some of the vacant positions that we weren't able to fill. we'd like to continue doing that this year. I met with them yesterday along with Joe Underwood, our custodial supervisor, and we would like to continue on with having their contractors in all three of our buildings. We did talk about the fact that last year, and you know, we were able to negotiate when we were able to hire some more custodians, that we were able to have one less building that they were taking care of. So we're gonna have that clause in this contract, which I haven't received yet, that will say if we do hire some custodians, that we can just give 30 days notice on one of the schools so that we can continue on with the other two, but be able to hire those folks. Once we have that situated, I'll come back to the board, hopefully by the next meeting, asking for a transfer from the contract and from the custodial services to contracted services. We also have at GMS, we are looking to hire a substitute nurse 2 days a week this fall to help cover a long-term leave. We did talk about this a couple meetings ago. We were able to get some help with 3 days per week, but we're still going to need those 2 days to be covered. So at this point, we are looking to contract with an agency. We have 2 candidates that are coming in tomorrow to interview over at GMS, and hopefully we'll feel comfortable with one of those to be able to move on and contract with them. So just wanted to update on that. We have been working, Brian and I have been attending some meetings with regard to the town EOP. That needed to be updated. The town received a grant to have some assistance with finalizing that, so that's been wrapped up. One of the things that has come out of that is that the generator that we have at the high school actually belongs to the town, because it's used for an emergency shelter when we use the school for that. So I guess the generator that's at the high school is very old, was donated to us many years ago, not doing great. So obviously that's an important piece of equipment that we need to make sure is functioning properly. So we are looking at a grant. Chief Nickel and I are going to be meeting. We actually had a meeting tomorrow. It's been postponed a bit, but we are going to be meeting to look at the emergency management performance grant the town would be applying for, and we would be assisting with that. So I'll certainly share more information when that becomes available.
Okay.
And just in general, I just want to give a shout out to all of our custodial and maintenance staff that have done a tremendous job this summer and working very hard to make our buildings nice and fresh for us when everyone's coming back to school. Concord High School, Campbell High School. The walls are all one color. It looks lovely.
Improved everybody's OCD over there.
It's the first floor, just warning everybody. We didn't have time for both. We just budgeted and had time, both cost and budget for just the first, so the second will come next year, hopefully.
Absolutely, yes. And that's all I had.
Excellent. Well, yes, I'll echo that shout out to the staff. Thank you for all that they do. I know they've been working hard over the summer to get the buildings ready for the students to return and staff to return. So, and I've been in Campbell with the paint, and it looks great.
It does look awesome.
Looks great.
There's a little pressure picking on color. I'm not gonna lie. Like, well, pick a paint color.
You picked white though, so I mean, how hard is it?
Yeah, but white is not white.
It's like a
No,
cream.
there was yellow white, there was gray white, there was like a green white, a purple white.
Well, the white you picked is very clean.
Snow White.
Yeah.
It's very enchanted.
Yeah, that was a lot of help.
A couple questions, just in terms of the janitorial services. So we were able to have citywide support 2 out of the 3 buildings towards the second half of last year. Why all 3 buildings again this year? Did we lose a staff member?
We did lose a staff member, yes. So, and we were able to make it work throughout the end of the year, kind of just scraping by, but we don't want to start off in that position. Right now we have 5.5 positions that are vacant throughout the district and with custodial services.
What were we up to for? We were doing pretty well for a little bit there, weren't we?
We were.
What was our lowest number of vacancies? Do you know?
I want to say
okay.
4, but I'm not 100% sure. I'll check on that.
And do we know, for the people we're losing, do we know what we lost them to?
I believe the person that we had, wasn't with us very long. I think unfortunately that's been the trend, is some of the people that we've hired just haven't lasted very long, and for one reason or another, it's just been difficult to maintain that staff.
Also, in terms of the generator, is I know it's in cooperation here with the town, but is the generator no longer operational? Is that the issue?
It is operational, but I guess the last couple of inspections, including the most recent one, the chief was told that it was not probably gonna be running for much longer, that we should probably make sure it's not leaking or anything like that.
Okay.
So just wanna make sure that's running properly.
And another question.
Sure.
How's the solar doing at LMS?
Waiting for it.
You're never gonna get away from that.
I know. So far, so good. I have not received an update. I reached out somewhat recently to Kay to get more of a timeline on when they'll be doing the work this summer, and she's still waiting on some information from some of she's still waiting on some information to be able to move forward with making a firm plan with us. So I will be following back up with her once again to get a more.
Did we do the pad for the battery?
That is something that they're going to be doing this summer, and that's one of the things that we need to know when they're going to be scheduling
I
that.
don't think it's gonna happen this summer.
And the idea was that was going to happen
Before
before
school.
students
Correct.
were getting back last summer.
And firewood,
So not to impact parent drop-off lane and all those other fun things that it would.
fire would like a word as well, like when it comes to the pad
Oh,
and
really?
stuff. Yeah, they just wanna be included, and they feel like they get cut. Julie does a good job of including them, and then they kinda get cut out of the conversation, and,
Yeah.
they should be involved.
Okay. But in terms of the actual return from the array, do we have any, sense of how that is going for,
How it's producing?
yeah, how it's producing? I mean, we're in the energy producing months now, certainly for the array.
Correct. That's data that I need to find out how we kind of get more of that information, because we still are receiving the Eversource bills. And there's a natural decrease, of course, during the time of year of energy consumption. But we are
And I would think we're not paying anything right now
correct.
on it to Eversource.
Right. I mean, we're still receiving the bills, but right, the district is not paying.
So
Right, but we should be not paying
what,
anything.
I'm curious as to what the middle school bills are for Eversource, because, right, if the array's really producing the electricity, there really shouldn't be a whole lot that's being charged from Eversource.
Unless we're relying on the battery backup system for the low production times, which we don't have.
Which we don't have.
And I believe
Yeah, but
that is-
we're in prime
Right.
energy, like, we should be seeing zero.
I mean,
from
I'm
the
understanding how this works,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah,
Okay.
no, we
Oh,
should be,
actually-
so,
You have it there.
we should be getting absolutely zero bills from Eversource. I understand getting a bill and saying you owe us nothing and everything, but we should not be paying Eversource anything if that grid is full up I mean, it's 487 kilowatt hours that thing should be able to produce. So, I mean, like, there's enough power there, especially in the low electrical usage time of the school, that we should not be paying out anything to Eversource.
So I'd like to see for the next several months, right?
Yes, and
We'll just
that's
stay for the
something
rest of the
that
year.
we're collecting.
I'd like to see the LMS electricity bills
Okay.
consistently.
I think for the first bit of it, though, I mean, we might want to see historic bills just to see
Yeah.
like a year over
Yeah,
year.
year over year.
So,
It's on the website, the account.
So back on June
I was
10th,
gonna say, I know
Ann
Ann
did
was
send out a spreadsheet of
Right.
electrical bills.
Yes.
And it's just a spreadsheet. I would like to see more, like, how many kilowatt hours was used, not just the charges for
Right, because
it.
we had asked for this as a summary.
Right.
Yes.
Yep. So
We can just
it-
hyperlink the bills into the.
Yeah.
yeah,
we can do that.
no, that's perfectly fine, or even just update the spreadsheet, and then, I mean, I'll be glad to help fill it out too, just because I'm very interested, in going from that, but.
Okay, absolutely.
All right, thank you for the update.
Almost forgot about that. We hadn't talked about it in a while.
I
All right. Is it humming or anything? Any noises from the roof?
From the solar?
Any smoke or anything like that?
Has the heating system registered that it's 4,000 degrees in the school again?
No.
Sounds like there's something else there.
Nothing you want to share?
All right.
No, there's some fire alarm wires that we're trying to figure out.
Yes, it's a different issue.
All right.
That's it's annoying.
That's another headache.
Nothing else is buzzing over there.
All right. Let's turn it over to curriculum and instruction update.
All right, speaking of buzzing, the CIA department of me has been very busy this summer. Grading was the most prevalent, but just a quick update, just a couple of days ago, we did finally get Title II and IV allocations. We were kind of worried we weren't going to get those, and we did end up getting them, and because I like to spend our grant money, our allocations increased a little bit, which is great to see because your allocations will tend to go up if they see that you're spending down your funds. And I'm a firm believer of spending grant funds when you get them. So that was really exciting to see the other day. Our consolidated app for the ESSA portion was approved, so I'm ready to rock and roll to start grants, and been working on a whole bunch of things this summer. So I've already talked a lot earlier. So I'm good.
What were the grant amounts?
I off the top of my head, I can look for them, but in my next update, I'll give the exact allocations because these were very preliminary. I literally got them like 2 days ago. So I still have to, I looked at them and I did a happy dance, like, yay! And I saw that they were a little bit more than what we had, so I'm like, yay! But I'll give you the exact grant amounts next meeting.
Thank you.
Yep.
All right. Thank you for that update.
I'll make a motion to approve the July 9th public minutes.
As amended.
As amended.
All right. We have a motion by Mr. Shoemaker,
He seconded it already, right?
second by Mr. Plansky. Just a point of discussion. We have received confirmation that those have been amended.
Appreciate it. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Mr. Plansky?
Aye.
Mr. Shoemaker?
Aye.
I am an aye. Mr. Jewett?
Aye.
Those carry 4-0. All right, turning it over to new business, and I'll put it back to the superintendent.
Yeah, so we talked to some teams of people over the past last Friday and Monday in regards to the RFP we had out for GMS. So we talked to, I'm going to say firms and the groups. You know, there's a combination of people, but we talked to Turner Group, Barker and S&P. They kind of came together. The two different architecture firms kind of came together. Harriman and then LaValle and Brensinger. As the forms that we interviewed. It's a great experience. We had a good group of people, I think 9 people in the room with us, people from the board, obviously, people from FIC, plus me and Julie and Dan for the districts. Very informative. Each presentation was unique. You know, they came in and they presented some overviews, and we could have some dialogue and some questions with them. I'll just give my quick opinion of it, and anyone can jump in. Well, I think they all gave great presentations. I think the Barker presentation, Barker and S&P, is not necessarily where we are right now, and not the firm that we go for. They do great work. They're doing work over in the Naganock School District right now that I'm partial to because it's my dad's old school, or old school's plural. They're working on 2 different ones, and people over there are really happy with the work they're doing. But I don't think they're the right fit for us right now. And but the other 3 firms, Turner, Harriman, and LaValle, they were great. They all have differences, pros and cons, but I think any of the 3 for me personally, I think would be beneficial for us, to kind of move forward with and continue with. So we gathered some feedback from the people who took the panel. Again, anyone else wants to jump in and share their thoughts on any of it. So
I have not done the survey yet. I think I saw 3 of the 4. I did not see the LaValle one, which is one I definitely wanted to see. I was impressed with Turner's. More so, I thought they had a better feel for the community. Harriman, I thought I left feeling as though they were going to be the absolute most expensive, significantly more than some of the others.
So, I have a difference of opinion on that.
It's so unusual for you and I to disagree.
The lawyer.
I first off, they were all great. I
they were all
appreciate the
great.
work they all did to come in. They obviously do a lot of prep to come into these meetings, and they were all very informative. Starting with Turner, like they highlighted some projects that are very similar to what we are thinking that we need, which I really appreciated. The biggest concern for me with them was around community engagement. I think that one problem that we really struggle with here is how to effectively get information to the community, share information with the community, make the community feel like they know what's going on. They were the only firm that didn't have any sort of plan for that. Their answer was, well, you could hire a separate PR firm. But there wasn't like a plan, which led me to believe that it wouldn't be a very integrated approach, which for me is a deal breaker. La Valley was great. My concern with them was that they are bringing in they're not a fully integrated team, so they are bringing in outside partners.
It was 4 separate subcontractors that they would partner with.
And my concern with that is, having been involved with the last project, communication was really challenging at times because of the amount of people that were jumping on calls and different voices and different opinions, and it just, to me, it's ineffective. So Harriman, I wish I brought my notes. I didn't bring my notes in the car, but Harriman, the entire time I was watching their presentation, I was just thinking to myself, wow, this is unbelievable. This is everything that we need. Now, I do agree that they have worked on some high-end projects. However, they did highlight a project where there was a budget that they came in higher than this school wanted, but the school said, we think we need to be at this price point, and they did a lot of creative work to reconfigure what they were proposing, and they got them down by a considerable amount. And I thought that was impressive. I think that in that regard, I think that if we are clear with them on where we think we need to be, that they can hit what we need. But they are fully integrated. So they have a person that's on their team who is solely dedicated to helping us make sure we're keeping information in front of the community. And they package it, they put it out there. We don't have to have someone that's responsible for that. And as one of the people who was primarily responsible for that the last go around, that was miserable as a working person, and a lot of it ended up falling on Dan's shoulders, which is just not effective. So for me, I feel as though they would be the strongest candidate for what would help us get to where we need to go.
Yeah, so I will say that there was a couple of trends that I saw, right, is I absolutely agree that Barker S&P are not, to me, they completely missed the mark. They came in and they absolutely completely missed the whole premise of why we're back at the table. And there's also just other comments that, Mr. Mitchell provided during the meeting or after the meeting with that. It's trying to get him to understand with hey, we don't like this, change this. And it took 3-4 times for him to make that actual adjustment versus, okay, I hear you, but let me go do this over here instead. So that on our timeline, it just isn't going to work. Just from a personality perspective, I think it's the wrong move. Turner, the Turner group, Lavalley, and Harriman all recommended that we get a construction manager hired separately. And it's not a lot of cost. They all had different ways to adjust for it. They can provide an estimator, but that's contracted through them. Doing the construction manager is contracted directly for us. It is their best purview of protects us.
That's the only way we get a GMP.
It's the only way that we get a GMP that a construction team would sit there and stand by.
Right.
And because that's what we're hiring them to do. I will say that Turner Group had a great presentation because I felt like they saw kind of loosely what could be involved with the project. They presented several of them that kind of hit the mark, but I felt like they missed the mark on we're looking at 2 options. They did next to no talking about the second option, and that is that's where put them as out of the 4 number 3 to me. Lavalley was very, very good. I think they grasped the PR concept. I am concerned about the foursome contractors, but they're the only ones that presented a timeline. Everybody says that it can be done. Well, of course they're all going to say that, but they're the only one that actually presented a schedule. Harriman, I think, had the best presentation. I think they understand the need out of it. And just for rough figures, if we go with Harriman, we're talking, you know, like, we're at a 30K split between everybody. Turner Group came in significantly less, but we still needed to go higher. And that's where my concern came in. So, I mean, honestly, I liked all the different presentations. I thought it was really funny that we spent a year working with a team and then it just completely missed the mark in my mind. But that's my opinion.
So, not having been part of the process and the interviews, right, and solely listening to you folks and going through the data that I see, and it looks like there was feedback from the interviewers and questions that were sent out, and what I'm reading, there appears one clear choice.
Yeah, when we gathered the feedback, so we sent a Google form to the people who participated, and then just asked, you know, each of the people individually on a scale 1 through 5, like, how did you think they fit? And then do a rank order of your people, and then just share thoughts related to it. And Harriman is the overwhelming favorite of the group, of this subgroup. 6 people responded that they were the top choice of the 9 people who responded. And I think one person refrained from ranking any of them for one reason. So 6 out of the 8 felt that way. You know, and you know, Turner got a vote as the best one. LaValle got a vote as the best one. Everyone had Barker in that number 4 spot, so I think for sake of conversation right now, I don't think they're the best fit to move forward. And Turner and LaValle, it was 4 and 3, right? You know, they were kind of split as the second kind of favorite of the group themselves. But again, only speaking for myself, they're all really close and offer those different pros and cons. I think in cost, you know, Turner threw out a number that was low. Not that I think they're being untruthful or anything, but the fact that Harriman and LaValle's were pretty much the same makes me think, like, what else do we need to hire here with Turner, which they were open about, you know, that's the sole thing. So I do think probably the cost for this part of it, when it's all said and done, which is a contract with at least the firm and additional people, including at least a construction manager, is all gonna be roughly the same. Doing some preliminary research of it, or based upon the numbers they gave us, that's the research of it, you know. So I think costs were about equal across the board, and I think it is who's the best fit for us as a district. And I think it's your decision, ultimately the board's, obviously people provide you insight and feedback, but as you as a board look to do this project, and learning from the past experience, what is it that you think is the best fit for this? I think all 3 of these, I'm only gonna speak for myself, no one else in the room or any of the other groups. I'm more familiar in my history with both LaValle and Turner, because I've worked in districts that have done work with LaValle and Turner, and that work's been really strong and good, and people have been really happy. I'm least familiar with the work of Harriman. That's not to say that they don't do good work, just like I'm least familiar with them personally, but they're just completing, or they're in the middle of a huge project over in Nashua. They have a long history when you look through their references and just like history of just success. More of it's in Maine. I think that's probably where they started their business. Feels to me maybe they're trying to expand into New Hampshire, which is part of this, and so they would be invested to do a really solid job. But I also think Turner and LaValle, this is what they do in the state of New Hampshire. They do school projects, you know, and like they're great at it. So yeah, but I don't think you can go wrong with any of the 3.
With respect to the timeline,
That's my next question.
yeah. So I think all of them sort of indicated we can, if you're looking for a March vote, we can absolutely get there. We have to hit the ground running, and it's going to be a lot of work, but we can absolutely do that. I think if we, I think we've talked about how we feel it's important to try to move forward as best we can, but obviously preserving the quality of what we do. So I think either way, if we get started, if we get to the point where we decide collectively with our team, it's just not ready at that point, then we can make the right decisions. But I think if we do get started as soon as possible by engaging any of these companies, we stand a chance at potentially having something done, especially because we have done a considerable amount of work. One of them pointed out, you have a lot of background information that we can rely on, which is very, very helpful. But like, for example, with Harriman, I did ask them, so it was interesting, question-wise, like, you kind of like knew, okay, well, this wasn't answered for me, but with Harriman, they answered everything that I could think of. So then I started thinking of other questions, and one thing that came to mind was, given the fact that it is a wetter site, how will that play into what we have to do for background work? And they said that they would want to get, geotechnical studies done right away, so that way they know, because they can design. We're essentially getting to, if we want to get to a March vote, we want to get to a schematic design with a guaranteed maximum price. And they said, in order to feel confident in having a schematic design, we definitely want to know what we're building on, so that we can get you to a price that's reasonable. So my opinion is we should be definitely taking swift action with respect to choosing one, but we should also be taking swift action with respect to starting to get an RFP ready for a construction manager, because that is a critical component of getting off the ground. Because a lot of them have built-in estimator costs, but ultimately, in some cases, it's more useful to have our construction manager on as well. One of them said that they would keep their estimator regardless, right?
Yeah, and they wouldn't charge us for it because they just want their own estimator to
Right.
kind of come to it and
Yeah,
stuff.
so and all three of the groups said that they would help facilitate that.
Yeah.
To get a construction manager on board, that would be separate contract to us. I don't know specifically what our policy states about that, but it is something that I highly recommend that we add, that we do with this. Because I honestly just think it'll protect us, because that construction manager would work with this group, with whatever firm we choose, and basically validate whatever they come up with, a concept design and a schematic design can be done for the price that they tell us, and that person is hired by us to validate that assumption.
And they're also, responsible to us to actually doing it.
Yep.
So another question, one thing I just heard listening again is construction, new, build. What about the renovation aspects of this project?
That's what we're
That
talking
would
about.
still be
That's what
part of,
we're referring
that would
to.
still be part of the conversation.
Yeah,
So what did they have to present about the renovation piece of this in their plan?
So they all presented to us different projects that they've worked on. All of them were renovation plus addition projects that they've worked on. I don't think any of them gave us a brand new school. They know that wasn't. They listened to what we were asking for, so they didn't do that. Ultimately, there were one of them, was it Lavalley, that came in and said, like, here's like a really rough idea of like what you could look at, but it wasn't. None of them have been engaged to do that yet, so they didn't deliver like, hey, this is what we would suggest. Out of the four of them, I would have expected Barker to have come in with something maybe a little bit more
Detail.
honed in, just because he has a lot more background with this. But
I thought the Harriman example, when it came to the renovation stuff, was nice. So they did an example where there was an initial thought of what the renovation would look like for the school, renovation / addition they were doing, right? And it had a price point, I think it was a $20 million or $22 million, right? And the school district was like, that price is not gonna work, that plan's not gonna work for us. So they uprooted, the gym is what they moved, right? This gym they were adding to it. And they did something pretty clever with like a curve through the middle of the building and put the gym over here and ended up saving the project, probably not solely because of that, but about $8 million, I think it got it down to about 12 million total. And
It was
that,
actually a design and a plan from a different firm that they took over for.
yeah, that was the situation. So it was them showing that they can be flexible with that dialogue of going back and forth of like, hey, your initial idea here while great, may not be what's working for us fiscally. So what can you do to adjust that? So it was nice that they heard that, because, you know, again, I'll just speak for myself. I think what we're looking for is a firm that we can have that dialogue for. You know, we have an idea, we got a couple of different options we're looking at, reconfiguration stuff up with the high school, the, solely doing some work at GMS, looking at our list of items we want to check off here, realizing that, you know, a $30 million renovation project's not gonna be appropriate. So like, getting that back and forth of what the price point that we feel comfortable with, knowing that we got enough done on our list is what we're looking for. And I thought the Harriman part of that presentation was really nice, because they articulated a nice case study where they did exactly that, so.
They're also very cautious to future-proof their designs too. So like they understand that if we can't achieve everything that we're trying to achieve, that down the road at some point, if we ever wanted to achieve something different, they will design for that. And I think I would assume that all the others would as well.
So I think what, you know, again, most of the all four of them showed us renovation projects that they had done, you know, and a general idea. I mean, I think one of them showed us like a super rough idea of like, you could use this space here, you know, and adjust, you know, essentially where the portables are now, right? You know, and do some maneuvering here and remove this and shift that over there, like some general big ideas, but I think they would have to get in and really start.
They gave that caveat. He's like, this is like real, like, just rough idea of something you could maybe look at.
Just an idea based upon the walkthrough that they did and the information that they had, so. I do agree. I think if we could leave this meeting at a minimum starting contract negotiations with at least one firm, and the flexibility to begin the process of a construction manager, that will be a success for right now. You know, obviously you shouldn't agree to a firm right now without a contract in place, but that's gonna be done with our attorneys and the firm and stuff like that. But, to maybe start that process with at least one of the firms, so at the next board meeting, we have hopefully a contract you can review and, you know, see if you're comfortable with it. You know, that puts all of these numbers that are floated out there, puts them on paper, that you can see concretely, that this is what you're getting for this cost, right? And those type of details and stuff, so.
So open question to the board, is the board comfortable with pushing forward towards a March timeline?
I was always skeptical of like, does that make sense? After seeing these presentations, I don't think we lose anything by working towards that. I think that we have to be smart and continue to monitor the progress and recognize if we're seeming like we're tight on time, we can always make those, you know, adjustments. And ultimately, I don't know that it would have a super crazy impact on when we would actually start the, you know.
Right, I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, I didn't see LaValle. All of them said even if we vote March 2026, it would be 2027 before they would put a shovel in the ground.
But obviously, you know, we are looking to have some sort of,
You know, some finality.
I think, I mean, my caution is gonna be on Brian and Julie and the staff's team. It's a heavy lift. It's a lot of work. And you've answered the question several times, so you don't have to rehash it. I believe you guys can do it. I believe you guys will make it the priority and it can be done. That would be my one concern. But again, that's why you guys are here. It's why you do what you do. You guys say you guys can do it. So
As opposed to the construction manager? Is that what you're referring to?
No, just the amount of interaction, the amount of meetings, the amount of work that it's gonna take to go from here to get a GMP with a solid confidence that a construction manager will sign off on by, let's say, end of November, mid-December. There is a lot of work and a lot of meetings and a lot of disruption probably in the first month and a half of school that they're gonna be on site during the day.
No, by the way,
It's budget time.
budget season.
Right.
Yeah,
So
it's the work that needs to be done. I will say my piece. It's the work that needs to be done.
Yeah,
You know, you let the work dictate the work that you're gonna do, and if that's the work that needs to be done right now, then that's the work that needs to be done.
Yep.
right?
We may have some of that from the last effort.
I mean,
It's gonna need to be tweaked, obviously, but
I mean, just looking, I have the Harriman presentation open, but like, they included your portrait of a learner in there. Like, they have done some of the legwork already, like, because we've been doing, we've been at this for.
I mean,
One of them laid out all of the stuff like there, right? Like they had their little picture with the screenshot of each of the various reports that have been done forever. You know, I think it may have been Turner because it may have been one of their reports was included there, you know?
Yeah, so
So there is a lot of info that people can use here already, so.
Yep.
Do you want to hear from the citizen co-chair since he's here and he was part of the FIC?
Yeah, I would love that.
Sure.
Please.
Come up.
Evening.
I'm Joe Lassard, 14 Deerwood Drive. So yeah, I'm facilities co-chair. I was at these meetings and interviews, and I am very much in the same camp as Matt. I felt Harriman's presentation was above and beyond everybody else's. They really took the time and effort to dig into the information that we had already had, and then were able to take that and tell us how they would use it and present on it, as opposed to just saying, "Oh yeah, we know you guys did stuff. We'll look at it." They already looked at it. They already started going through it and making it part of what they're thinking about and how we're going to get there. When it comes to the timeline, they were very clear that, yeah, depending on when you vote, whether it's the March of this coming March or the following, the difference in construction is a couple months, right? You're not going to change the timeline drastically by delaying a year on the vote. So they think we can get there no matter what. But yeah, like everybody said, it's going to be a lot of work between either Brian and his team, members of the school board, the FIC committee. But to Brian's point, I think that's what we need to do to get to the place we need for the school, right? Like I think there's things to do at GMS, and to Mr. Oblinas' point, like there's ways to do things, right? We could fix things. We want to fix things, I think, in this solution too. It's not a build a new school solution, right? It's not just an addition. Like it is looking to improve the entirety of that building and change that learning environment to be more with the current way people learn. And the schools are built, and schools are things they need to do, right? Things that were part of school 20 years ago are not part of what schools today. Like you didn't have to deal with kids' cell phones even when I was in school, right? And that wasn't that long ago. So like the learning environments have drastically changed, and our building has not kept up with that. And I think these options that we're talking about are help us going to get there without breaking the bank.
Thank you. All right, any additional discussion?
Nope.
Does the board have a motion?
I'll make a motion to choose Harriman as our,
To enter into negotiations.
yeah, to negotiations with Harriman.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Plansky, a second by Mr. Shoemaker. Discussion. My discussion point is, I know that it sounds like LaValle and Turner, big in the state, right? Are there any reservations by going into contract negotiations with Harriman?
I don't have reservations. Like I said, I think all three of those firms are excellent. You know, I thought, you know, one of the things, and if I had to, I think I've gone back and forth personally between Turner and Harriman, you know. Sorry, LaValle, but you're right there too, just like with the two of them. And I think why I shade a little tiny bit towards Harriman is the line of communication for us seemed most clear, right? Like these are the three people we're going to talk to all the time, and they're going to handle everything for us. And as more novice when it comes to facilities projects, you know, as an SAU team, I liked that it was very, very clear to me who we're talking to all the time, right? And that they have history doing projects for a long time. It was very clear that Miss Swain there, I think that's how you pronounce her last name, is the person, right? And then the Emily person is going to be our, like, help us sell it type person, right?
Right.
And the third gentleman, I can't remember him right now, was
Jamie.
You know, the nuts and bolts
Project
guy of it
manager.
all, right?
Yep.
Yeah, the project manager. And that just seems so simple and so clear. So I always feel very comfortable with them. Likewise, I feel comfortable with the other two firms too, you know.
Yeah.
They are
But-
doing work in Nashua too. It's not like they don't
Yeah.
do work in,
Yeah.
they do a ton of work
They
in
have
Nashua.
a location in Portsmouth and Boston, so they are.
I feel they're creeping this way. That's the vibe I got. Like they're
Yep.
coming this way into the state, right? And they see this as an opportunity for themselves to show that they can work with district of our size and of our need and do a good job with it.
Okay, roll call vote. Mr. Plansky?
Aye.
Mr. Shoemaker?
Aye.
I'm an aye. Mr. DeWitt?
Aye.
All right, carries 4-0.
May I have a couple follow-up questions that might
Yep.
require other things?
Yes.
Could we have some sort of motion to start working towards a construction manager as
That was
well?
gonna be my, I will make that
was
motion
gonna
right
do
now.
Okay.
Yes, absolutely. So
I'll
motion.
make a, I'll make a motion to start, I guess, start the work on an RFP for a construction manager.
Second?
Motion by Mr. Shoemaker, second by Mr. Plansky. How will that be funded?
That was gonna be my next thing when you were done with this.
So,
So my next thing I'm gonna ask you is if I would imagine we would wanna fund this out of the reserve fund that's connected to this type of work. And if that is so, we're gonna need to do a public hearing related to it. So my next ask was gonna be, could you grant us the ability to post for a public meeting, but prior to our next school board meeting? Or even post our next school board meeting, depending on where we have with the contract and stuff like that. We'll make sure we time this correctly and we're providing accurate information. But once we have that squared away, that we can post a public meeting to potentially withdraw, doing a rough estimate, like Harriman looked like 180,000 would be the cap on what we would pay for them. Plus, it sounds like 20,000 is the construction manager type of cost. So maybe a public hearing of roads drawing up to $210,000. That gives us a little wiggle room if that construction manager is a little bit over
We'll have
$20,000.
to, I mean, you're looking for the number now. Okay.
Yeah, so we can be upfront with what we potentially could be pulling out. If we're not pulling out that amount, then that's fine as well, but I think we gotta be transparent on what we could up to be pulling out of that.
Okay, so
reserve.
first the motion, the construction manager, so you have we have a motion and a second, roll call vote. Oh, sorry, additional discussion on that?
No, I'm good.
You good? Mr. Plansky?
aye.
Mr. Shoemaker?
Aye.
I'm an aye. Mr. DeWitt?
Aye.
Okay, so that construction manager carries 4-0. And then the hearing.
A motion we gotta follow proper timing guidelines,
Yep.
but a motion to post, a meeting connected to withdrawing up to $210,000 related to the pre-construction services bid and a potential construction manager.
Before that motion's made, are we confident in the amount?
I wouldn't
So
put
the
my
20
confidence
The
at
20
100.
is hard, like, all of these, architect firms were basically saying that was like the number that they were
Yeah.
anticipating.
They had budgeted for.
Candidly, they all were very careful to not step on toes because they work with all the same people all the time, but they did say some of these, construction managers will do the work and they won't bill for it because they're gonna recoup it in the project. But they said you can't rely on that, so
Right.
there's,
So 20 was the number if we're,
20 was the number that they all
We're
kind of
given.
seemed to do.
Yeah.
the 210 number I suggested, feel free to change it, would allow us to go up to 30 with a construction manager if need be, if that's where that bid was. Or, we can separate it out and just do, a certain number for the pre-construction bid for the public hearing. This would require a separate public hearing down the road for the construction manager, so it might be nice to do both.
Why don't we do this? So I'll make a motion to have a public hearing for an amount of up to $225,000, right? For Harriman and for the construction manager.
I will second.
Motion by myself, second by Mr. DeWitt. Additional discussion. Mr. Plansky?
Aye.
Mr. Shoemaker?
Aye.
I'm an aye. Mr. DeWitt?
Aye.
That carries 4-0.
I think
That
that's,
gives you a little bit of a buffer.
yeah.
Yeah.
In
yeah.
the event
Yeah.
it's necessary.
And I don't think it's gonna be, but thank you.
Yeah. I mean,
Excuse me.
I don't wanna be handcuffed and then have to do another hearing.
Yes.
Okay. All right, anything else on interview process?
No, it's just wonderful. Thank you for everyone who took the time out of their schedules. I know for people, who are not me, Julie and Dan, you probably have to take personal time to join us, so we appreciate people doing that, both on the board and on the FIC. We really appreciated, people joining us, and everyone was wonderful, contributed great questions, great feedback and everything, so thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, we'll shift gears and go into policies.
Oh, here we go.
We have
Policies.
I see Heidi's not here. What happened? Actually, I don't think this is too bad. So we're gonna go this in different phases. We tried to break it out, me and Heidi, for you, so maybe we can do this motions and groups here that make sense. So the first thing is just more of an FYI. We're changing we have mentioned this before, but here's the actual example. The policy header, the template we use for policies, we are trying to get rid of the logos because there's like 3 different logos in all the policies, so it's all uniform.
A lot of them are old.
Yeah, a lot of them are old. So we're going logo less. So in the event the district decides to change their logo, they don't have to go through and update all the policies again.
Just bold type,
Just
that's it.
bold type. So that's going to be the template moving forward. As we update these, we will update them with that template kind of moving forward as we go through. So that's that first little bit. You don't need to approve anything. That's just informative. This next section, you also don't need to approve anything, but it's informative. We rely on the New Hampshire School Board Association sample policy for a lot of the work that we do related to policy. From time to time, they'll update the coding, or they might dual or tri-code different policies that are the same, but they may show up in a board governance category, in a instructional category, in a student category, so on and so forth. So this section right here is just updating these policies so they're properly dual coded throughout our various subfolders and stuff like that. There's been no changes to these policies. They actually all fairly closely align anyways to the suggested school board policy anyways, sample policy anyways. So you don't have to approve these, but we did want to inform you that we are just making sure the coding is correct on this set of 4 right here. Any questions on those?
No questions.
Great.
I am sure Renee is not a fan of all these updates.
No. All right, edits and coding. These 2 right here, I'm going to group together because they're semi-related because they both need a coding update and they've been edited while we're going through the coding update. So the first one, policy IHC-LEB. We'll get the coding update out of the way first. It should technically be policy IHCD. This is a very minor thing, but that code just, instead of it being CB, needs to be CD. The more pressing concern is because these policies are dual coded, they should be the same policy. And in our policy book, they are not the same policy. So they should be the same policy. The current IHC is different from the suggested sample policy for that coding and our current LEB policy. Our current LEB policy is the one that matches the sample New Hampshire School Board Association policy for both of those codings. So my suggestion, and that's what the proposal is right there, is to make sure that our dual coded policy here is the same as the one in the New Hampshire School Board Association. The general idea behind these policies are the same. We're not radically different. We're not doing anything different with it. It's just cleaning up language primarily. So I would ask that we accept the proposed there, which just cleans up the language, which is actually one of the policies we already have on the books, just making them the same, the 2 policies. Does that make sense?
It does.
Okay.
So do we have to do that as a first read and a second read, or do we?
You do technically, because
Yeah.
we are changing one of the policies.
This is a first read.
Yeah. And then the second one in this subcategory, emergency care and first aid. So we have we need to change the coding of them slightly, so that's why it's in this subcategory. EBBC needs to also be be labeled as JLCE in our student section, so we need to carry that over, update that policy. While we're at it, though, there's differences between our current policy and the sample policy. So you have 2 proposals. One, the first proposal right there is our current school district policy with additional language around Narcan and how schools could utilize Narcan in case of an emergency. And it's not just Narcan, it's any sort of opioid. So for example, if a kid is and this does not happen frequently, but if a kid has medication that has some sort of opioid in it, we need something in our policy that allows us to administer that medication in that event. It is extremely rare, but it does happen. But an EpiPen related device could have some sort of opioid in it that needs to be administered in case of emergency. The second proposed policy here, which is the one I would prefer that we use, is the sample New Hampshire School Board Association with one carryover from our current policy, which is the last paragraph. When you click on that second proposal, I believe you can see it. It should be highlighted for you, which just speaks a little bit more fully on how we handle illnesses within dismissing kids from the school nurse's office, asking parents to go through the office and stuff like that, not allowing high school students to drive home unless they have parent permission and those type of things. we feel that's critical to maintain that in our policy, because those are what we're doing from there. So I'm asking on the first one in the subset to take the recommended proposal, and then the second one, to take proposal 2 on it, if that makes sense.
So we would motion for the specific proposal for a second read, or
Yeah.
first read rather?
So you accept the second proposal as the first read, and then next meeting, you would just see those policies.
Right, so
as your
proposal
second.
2 is the first read.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right, and then the first one was just the updated.
Yeah, which is our current LEB policy.
All right, I will make a motion to approve policy IHCB, LEB, proposal, for first read. Oh, you wanna do them as separate ones?
No.
Okay, and I will make, policy EBBC, JLCE, proposal 2 for a first read.
Motion by Mr. Shoemaker, I will second. Additional discussion? Okay, Mr. Plansky?
Aye.
Mr. Shoemaker?
Aye.
I'm an aye. Mr. DeWitt?
Aye.
Okay, both of those policies are carry 4-0 for first read.
All right, next one, you're gonna see a lot of this in the upcoming months, particularly at our next board meeting. The Ed 306s were updated, if you can remember from last school year. That triggers a whole ton of policies needing updates. Some of them are very minor languages, like this one. This is why you're seeing it right now, because the update here is very, very small. The proposed update includes an additional piece of language that says there's a direct link from the school district's websites to the policy handbook, the digital policy handbook. Where previously it just had to be on the district website, it didn't have to be on each of the individual schools' websites. So that got updated with the 306 changes. We have to update our policy related, so that is the update in that one particular policy.
Update the websites.
And update the websites, right? But I broke it out because next meeting, poor Heidi, we have our policy committee meeting next week. I got 16, 17 policies that all are 306 related that we need to start chewing up and making the changes for. Some again are minor, some are more significant. But this was an easy one to slide in kind of right away.
Okay.
So accept that proposal with that additional line in there.
I'll make a motion to approve policy BGAA as proposed for a first read.
Motion by Mr. Shoemaker, I will second. Additional discussion? Mr. Plansky?
Aye.
Mr. Shoemaker?
Aye.
I am an aye. Mr. DeWitt?
Aye.
That carries 4-0. Let's just go through the rest of them.
Yep. These are new required policies throughout the past couple months, came through law, because of a law or something else like that. Parental Bill of Rights, chemical safety, the actual plan, and then career exploration policy. All brand new to us, all required policies we have to have. We have taken the sample policy from the New Hampshire School Board Association in each of these cases. The one note I'm gonna say is in the third one on this list, the chemical hygiene plan. If you actually go in, you'll see a couple spots where it's highlighted yellow, because we're gonna put a name of a person in there in the operations, but we won't have the name of the person, because we're literally naming the person, for example, Dave Ross, in there. So, because we need to put a name of a person in there. So when you see those two highlights, it's because there's a, not a position going in, but a name going in, so.
Does it I guess, does it have to be a name? Because I know we've had issues in the past where it was the superintendent will, and
Yeah,
added
it's a
like
great
the
question.
designee.
So there's lots of places where, like, it's been changed to the position, right? Like the
Yeah.
facilities director will, the senior superintendent, this as well. That particular line, like the first one is here, your school safety officer is, and then you have that on record somewhere in your building. We have a huge folder in our front office, for example, at Campbell, that has all the chemical plans, you know, for each of the chemical we store in the building. We need a sheet that says this is the person by name who's responsible for it, so
And
that's
can you
what
update that if they leave? Or-
Yes.
Or you have to come back to us?
No, you can, if we leave it blank there, like how it is in the policy, then we just have to update it as we
Or
kind of
just
go
a
through.
new, just change the name.
Yep.
I will make a motion to approve policy
No,
AB.
we're just gonna do them all at once.
That's what I was doing.
Oh,
I'll make
you're gonna do them all, okay.
I mean,
And career exploration, we haven't done that yet. We haven't reviewed it yet, right?
Right,
you wanna
it's
do
just
the-
taking
just
the
gonna
sample
do-
policy.
didn't
Yeah.
you just say, I thought you just went to that.
I did, those are the four I'm
You
doing.
did.
Oh, the career
career
exploration,
exploration,
okay.
Yeah. I'll make a motion to approve policy AB, policy EBCH, procedure EBCH-E1, policy IKFG as proposed for a first read.
Okay, motion by Mr. Shoemaker, I will second. Additional discussion? I got stuck reading the chemical hygiene, so.
It's thrilling.
I was lost in my.
It's thrilling.
All right, Mr. Plansky?
Aye.
Mr. Shoemaker?
Aye.
I'm an aye, Mr. DeWitt?
Aye.
That carries 4-0.
All right, just because it's the cell phone, we broke it out separately. This is the cell phone policy we talked about before. It's the sample New Hampshire School Board Association policy. We use the same language, especially as this is brand new with a law. We don't want to screw around too much with a particular policy. Now, we did talk about possibly updating it a little bit, and because you suggested, Matt, I wrote it down.
I suggested that we include a suggestion that people leave devices at home, and if they bring them, that we
The school has no liability.
they hold us harmless.
Yeah, so there is a section in here, if you open up the policy and you go to restrictions, and the last paragraph is part of that. So it's the end of the first page bleeding into the second page where it says, while it's best practice that these devices are not brought to school, if these devices are brought to school, they shall be kept powered off, turned off, students assigned, backpack, handbook, so on and so forth. The district not responsible for loss, damage, or theft
Oh,
of any
perfect, it's already there.
communication. Are you happy with that? Does that work?
I'm happy with that, that's exactly what I would have said.
So that's it, that's the suggested policy. I would, at this point, particularly recommend taking this sample policy for this, because it is a new law, and, if there's problems, they will update the sample policy, and we'll be back with those updates.
I will make a motion to approve policy JICJ as proposed for a first read.
Motion by Mr. Shoemaker, I will second. Additional discussion?
Good.
Good, all right, roll call vote. Mr. Plansky?
Aye.
Mr. Shoemaker?
Aye.
I have an aye. Mr. DeWitt?
Aye.
Okay, that carries 4-0.
See, that wasn't bad. Look at that, we just cranked through like 12 policies.
I'm
I
more
think
concerned about
at-
the next one.
I think at the second read, right, it's probably prudent of us to read this policy, so the
Yes.
language is clear in public.
Yeah.
Okay. That wraps up the cell phone policies, right? In all policies, we have old business next up on the agenda. Any old business from board members?
I guess one question for the CIP, do we have anything that we are looking to put forward on the CIP, or on the ballot at this point, other than,
I went to the meeting Monday,
okay,
and I mentioned the projects that we were gonna discuss tonight, but like the idea is that, a March vote is still strongly on the table for something related to GMS. I had mentioned our capital improvement plan, that big Excel document that we had that outlined everything from the onsite, insight, that had various numbers, cause they were talking about anything over 50,000, and there's lots of stuff on that
Everything
list
is-
with everything over 50,000. So they seemed like people were pleased with that, you know? And then I specifically mentioned the parking lot at LMS, just cause that's still kind of out there as, you know, we filled the pothole, or the sinkhole that we had this summer. But, you know, that's a hundreds of $1,000s project if we eventually someday move forward with redoing all that, so. We didn't have that outlined specifically, it's in the big capital improvement plan, but it's years down the road where it might be a more immediate need.
right, I think it was part of the CIP as a bundled
Yeah.
project at one
Yeah.
point, right, with the fields and everything else.
Yeah, and then I think we're up in September to do a more formal presentation to the CIP group, like the school, because fire, police, and highway went Monday and they all talked about vehicles. Oh, so I threw in like, we'd love a van for the school district. Might be something you see budget-wise. So everyone was talking vehicles, I didn't want to feel left out. But they talked about,
There's a big grant for a new
yes.
fire truck.
Yeah. And then, they talked about their different sections, so.
So with the LMS parking lot, did we get like a quote and a design for how that is to be fully addressed?
We have not gotten it yet.
I'm gonna,
Okay.
yeah, I'm gonna follow up.
They know we're looking for it.
Yeah, it's
And
their
they're
busy
busy,
season.
you know, so, and
No, I
we're not doing it tomorrow.
completely
so-
understood.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay, the board is in process of signing manifests, so I will read the manifests that are in process here, so just a moment. So manifest summary, we have payroll of $127,610.35. We have 403B and NHRS for $92,416.28. We have the payroll manifest Also for $103,127.74. We have another 403B for $2,974.20. And then we have two accounts payable manifests, one for $451,328.90, and the second accounts payable for $109,573.68. And we'll just do a quick check here on three signatures.
We only have two right now, but we can hand them down to
Okay.
Dan so you can keep running.
We'll hand them down to Mr. DeWitt here. And with that, we'll turn it over to community input. So this is our second of two community inputs this evening. Open up the floor. And if you could just state your name and address one more time. Thank you.
Hi, Ronald Blinas, 15 Riverview Circle, and I want to follow up to the comments I began the meeting with, and first of all, I appreciate if I can just offer discussions on the grading. I appreciate what you're doing there. That makes a lot of sense.
Oh, thank you so much.
So, I think that's great. And also, one of the things I want to highlight, you mentioned people are working hard to get the schools ready for this year, the janitors. I want to also note that my experience has been the janitorial service is top-notch. And specifically, you know, I spent probably more time in GMS, and I will acknowledge that the building is well taken care of by the staff there, and I appreciate it. In fact, I remember, if I got it right, James is the fellow that maintains the older section, and he took me around and gave me a whole tour, so I want to add to some of the comments. But what I do want to speak to specifically is, again, my recommendation that I sent to you was not to move forward with the contract that you just talked about. And I need to talk about it in a little more detail. And I'm going to need to go back to kind of the beginning of things. When I started getting involved in coming to these meetings, it was in November of 2023, when the new school was moving forward its presentation for the warrant articles. I came and presented a couple of memos about why, or questions about had things been looked at thoroughly. And at that time, I was told by the chairman of the FIC at the time that we've looked at everything, we have all the reports we need, we've studied everything we need, and what you're asking for is irrelevant, and we disregard your comments. Specifically, the comment was, we take your comments with a grain of salt. And I do I do want to acknowledge that once I was added shortly after that to the FIC, I did support the new school. And it was based upon information that I was able to glean between the time that I was added in January and March. And based upon that, I did support the new school. In fact, there's a video of me saying that. The difficulty came is after the vote, and I actually had time, I began to look at what was stated as we have all the information we need. Strangely enough, that is true. This particular report, right here, done in 2017, is the H.L. Turner report. Look how big it is. It looks at all three schools, and it gave a detailed assessment of improvements needed. Similarly, we did, just this past year, Onsite Insight did a similar, in fact, almost kind of the same scope type of input for all three schools. And, as I mentioned before, the Onsite Insight report identifies GMS as in fair condition. And what frustrated me is after I started to go through all these reports, I said, well, how was it that simply repairs that are mentioned, particularly in this report, And even Harriman, we have had Harriman as contractor to us. They actually designed the new school, the one that was going up on the hill for 112,000 square feet. They actually designed that in 2007. So, my question became, why did we discount all these reports if we had them? I was told we did. And I'm frustrated, and people said they were frustrated with me on the FIC. Well, I'm frustrated with the FIC as well, because what happened is the major points that were talked about to justify a new school were proximity to 3A, the traffic issues on 3A, and the quote, the superintendent, there's a river that flows underneath and there's water coming up through the floor. Well, that was the major issues as well as operation, some educational side, but that was the major three. As I said earlier, we've solved the 3A by spending $64,000. And that's simply just going, looking at plans and talking about it. And it was actually generated from the memo I sent back in last July recommending doing something to control the doors. And that came out of that. I made my recommendation of how to take care of the traffic by eliminating the left-hand turn. And that never got brought up to I couldn't get it on the FIC for discussion. They come up, it said, no, we can't put a sign up there, even though we can't, the reason was given, we can't put a sign up on our property. Well, if you go down 100 yards, there's two nice big red and white signs that say, do not enter. So that's not true. The point of that is, as I began to look at it, and particularly the water issue, I went in and looked at the building, talked to people in the building, and said, wait a minute, there's no water coming through here because the issue of water occurs in the springtime, the late spring and summertime. Well, the water table's the lowest at that point of time. So why would water be coming up through then? What my interpretation was, the HVAC system has failed. Humidity builds up in the summer, can't get it evacuated, and condenses in the evening. That's why we run all the humidifiers in there at night. And that's what these reports say. That's what this report says. So it's a frustration to me that we have not then come back and really looked at what is repairs really cost. So what I did, and to try to get the discussion to focus on that, is I did this little summary sheet. And this has been around to the FIC. I cannot get anybody to spend any time talking about this in detail. Never could. This is where I come up with the numbers that Turner says GMS could be repaired when I escalate their numbers to current value, can be repaired for $2.8 million. We can add sprinklers to that repair for $3.5 million. That's what this report says we could do right now. Onsite Insight says $5.3 million, including the rehab of the 1930s building. So this is the figures I've been throwing around that I was told, no, that's untrue. You can't do that. And this is the problem by having eliminated the repairs only option. And we're going to now propose at least $20 to $30 million in what you're just talking about now. My question becomes, how are people going to feel justified in spending that when we really have never looked at this in detail? And if we haven't, I've tried for 15 months to actually have people spend time going through these reports with me or anybody else and spend time. We never did. I couldn't get it. I couldn't get discussion. So that's the major point that I feel is that we need to go back to the recommendation I sent to you in March of 25, which is this year, that says we need to hire an engineering firm to work on an on-call contract basis to support us in a full evaluation of all options, so that we have somebody right there. How much is the HV system? Turner says it's about 1.5. Can you actually go run some numbers and call some subcontractor and see if that's right or not? We never had that. That's what my recommendation of a year ago March would have done. And until that's done, I will continue to say these numbers of in the low millions is what should be done at GMS. And the difficulty that I find, and I don't mind to be proven wrong. If an engineer that we hired came in and spent some time and looked at these and said, no, they're way low, okay, I would accept that. But until I have anything different, that's the number I believe that needs to be understood. So, with all those things in place, I don't believe you're going to be able to get this through. I'm going to continue to say this right up through town meeting. Be prepared for it. So, a couple of other things that related to this. I mentioned before, GMS is in the same configuration it's been for 30 years. The rehab offering is $20 to $30 million. And one of the things that's going to happen is if you do an addition, remember, you're going to have to spend $2 million on the 1930s building because you'll make it an orphan. You'll cut off the heating. You'll cut off all its power supply. So you're going to have to rehab that because you can't leave it sitting there. So that's going to be, instead of $1 million, if it's integrated into the 50s and 60s building, which repairs would do, at $1 million, it'll be $2 million. So that's got to get added to that figure. And that's, I bet you that's not in their figure now.
Mr. Oblanis, I just would like to interject and remind you that public comments limited to 3 minutes. You've been at 6.
10, actually.
When did the 3 minutes to the second part get added? I thought that was without.
Nope, policy BEDH.
All right. I will conclude quickly then. LMS needs to be looked at as an option. I presented to you that we have overstaffed condition. Campbell High School has an average class size of 16.3. That has to be first rescheduled so that we're at our target 23, and then know what our availability is before any assessment of moving 7th and 8th grade can be done up there with any assurity. So the work that you'll be doing here will be completely ineffective and the wrong answer until rescheduling of Campbell High School is done. That can't be done in the next coming year. That's why moving forward now is not a recommended option. I recommend, as I said before, hire a consultant to work on a task order basis, start all over again, and look at it from completely the repairs option, and I'll finish with this one question. How much money did we have to spend on GMS to open school this year? 0. That's been the case for as long as I can remember. And that's what people want to know, is why do I have to spend 20 million when these reports say I can spend very low millions to bring it from fair to good? So thank you.
Sir. All right, any additional public comments this evening? All right, hearing none, we have school board comments.
I think I'm gonna just chime in really quickly because I think sometimes people that are watching, when they hear people give public comment and we're sitting here quietly, you know, it's not because we have nothing to say. It's just because this is public comment time. We've answered and we've responded to all of the things that Mr. Oblanis has raised on multiple occasions. Those were all points of discussion at FIC meetings. I think it's interesting to me that Mr. Oblanis's perception is that the biggest issues with the school, or he highlights the issues of proximity to 3A, water under the building, forgetting what the third one was, but the educational impact he glosses over and says, the school's been fine for the entire time it's been in existence, right? One of the biggest problems with that school is it does not meet modern day educational needs. We are struggling with that. Our educators have talked ad nauseum about the challenges that they face on a daily basis. And those are challenges that our kids face learning in the environments. They're challenges that our educators face that they wouldn't have to face if they just took a job, which is probably open in a neighboring district. That is a very important piece, and I think to say, well, it's been fine. There's no issue. They've been surviving forever. That doesn't make that the right solution. It did not cost us $0 to open school this year. We allocated a bunch of money with our end of the year funds to be able to open school this year to continue to address issues with the building. So that's also not true. The numbers that Mr. Oblinis consistently points out, Onsite Insight openly said while they were here, that is not an all-in number. We've addressed that directly with Mr. Oblinis multiple times. He continues to make that point regardless of that. So unfortunately, anyone can say anything they want about, what they think the state of facts is, but the reality is we have all the reports that he was highlighting publicly available. Anyone can read them. More importantly, you can walk through the school. You can see that is not even close to a modern day school that kids should be learning in. We have done an extensive amount of work on this, and the FIC was assembled with a bunch of citizens. And I'd like to just remind everyone that that was a very diverse group. It's been very interesting to see how that group has come together to work together, and it took a lot of differing viewpoints that kind of molded into what was put before the board today. And so I think that we've done everything we can in terms of gauging the community. I don't think that the latest conversations that we had in interviewing these firms, there was no indication that we're looking at a $20 to $30 million project, because that's not what we're asking for. That's not what we're, anticipating having to present. So I just want to be clear on all of those points.
Just a couple other things too, is that the facilities committee and the group that was at the meeting is very concerned with what the cost will be. It's not gonna be a $30 million build. That school has not been the same configurations for 30 years. I've been here 27 years. It was half-day kindergarten through 4th grade. There were no portables. It's much larger. We now have, full-day kindergarten and pre-K over there. Those kids were not there 30 years ago. We have not determined whether we're gonna move kids from GMS to LMS. That's gonna be all part of this process. So there are a lot of things that, things are in a state of flux, right? We're gonna start from, here are our two options, get ideas for both, and move forward. We cannot do nothing. I mean, we can do nothing, but at some point we have to bite the bullet here. So, there was one other thing that I can't remember that I was gonna say, but that's it.
Okay. Any other comments?
I will say that there is always, I will say, if we do nothing, we're gonna be forced to do something. And that forcing to do something is gonna be a bigger disruption and a bigger upset to this town in a longer term than if we did something today and we planned it out. We have discussed repairs only. And the concern that was brought up by every report, including H.L. Turner and in Onsite Insight, was that they both stated they were estimates. They can't give that because that's not what they do. But at the same time, Onsite Insight specifically stated replacement in kind. The problem with replacement in kind is that there are legitimately 30 years of innovation to make it better, easier, lower cost, better efficiency for the school system. So yes, replacing something with an in-kind might be cheaper up front, but you're gonna more than pay for it in maintaining it and the utility cost that it comes with it. And we have gone through this process. There has been upwards of several committee members across the town, different town committees. There have been upwards of 7 voting citizens and other representatives on these meetings. And we have all came down to a consensus of where we are today. So this wasn't made by a blind association of people. And several people that do this as a citizen do it professionally in some fashion. So we are where we are because a group of people came together to bring us here. And I say we gotta keep going.
Okay, excellent. That concludes tonight's public session. The board does have non-public this evening under RSA 91A3. To move into non-public, we will have to enter a roll call vote.
I'll make a motion to move into non-public.
Motion by Mr. Shoemaker, Mr. Flansky?
Aye.
Second?
Aye. Oh, wait. Did we
I will second.
All right.
Let's start over.
I made the motion.
Mr. Shoemaker motioned, Mr. DeWitt second, Mr. Flansky?
Aye.
Mr. Shoemaker?
Aye.
I am an aye, Mr. DeWitt?
Aye.
Okay, that carries 4-0.